All right, guys, listen, we're live here Tuesday night, 7 p.m. You're in for a treat here. I got a threesome with two other guys. Every man's dream. Give us 1 minute. We'll be right back. Yes, man. I have about a 2/3 full energy drink. I don't know why. I don't need it. I'm jacked up. You guys are in for a treat here. I got two great YouTubers on the air. I got Keas from the Bak Talk Bros. What's up, brother?
Hey guys, how's it going?
And you're in for a real treat. I have the host of the TPT Chiefs podcast, Toss Power Trap. But you know what? Why don't I have him say it? I got Jaden here. Welcome, brother.
How you guys doing? It is an honor and a privilege to be on the show today. I'm excited to talk a little ball and a little Chiefs football, of course. I'm glad to be here.
You know what, Jaden? We're all Chiefs fans, so we all know, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit on Toss Power Trap and what that is to people that don't know Chiefs history, even though, even if you're not a Chiefs fan, I'm kind of thinking maybe you should know what Toss Power Trap is, but would you mind elaborating for those of you who don't?
Yeah, absolutely. So I when I started the podcast, I wanted really something that meant something to Chiefs fans. And, of course I talk NFL. I don't just talk to Chiefs, but, I'll talk other teams too, but I really wanted it to still mean something that meant something to Chiefs fans. And, my dad, he grew up in the Len Dawson, the Bobby Bell days. So I really wanted to do something that meant something to Chiefs fans. So I didn't want, a name that was like the, Chiefs Kingdom podcast or, something like that. I was like, what about the TPT podcast? One of the biggest plays that was the foundation for Chiefs Kingdom that, brought the Chiefs a Super Bowl, Mike Garrett running it in, Toss Power Trap. So I really wanted to mean something. And when I went to Kansas City for the draft, I had, one of my merch, one of my sweaters that had TPT, and the amount of the older people that were like, TPT, where did you get the jacket? I want that jacket, Toss Power Trap. And, it was just such a big play for the Chiefs versus the Vikings in that fourth Super Bowl. So it was a big play that I thought that would mean something to the Chiefs, kind of like the Philly special to the Eagles. So I was like, I'm going to do something that means something to Chiefs fans. I'm going to do Toss Power Trap podcast.
Oh, dude, that is so awesome. I am just an NFL history junkie.
Right.
America's Game, I've seen them all except for the Tampa Bay 2021, which I don't know why I'm not going to watch that. No, I'm never watching that. I'm not going to do it. There's going to be a day 15 years down the line, I'll probably watch, I'll skip through it,
you have to watch it to watch the best throw in NFL history.
It is one of the best throws in NFL history. There's so many, you know what? God, now you got me on a rabbit hole. I want to talk about Bobby Bell. I want to talk about Willie Lanier. I want to talk about Buck Buchanan. The 1969 Chiefs defense, maybe the greatest defense in NFL history.
Right.
It might be. I did a video, top 10 Super Bowl teams of all time. And that 69 Chiefs is on here. Man, we got some great comments coming in. But first off, Denver Gator. Now, for those of you that don't know, Denver Gator is a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan, LSU Tiger fan. He goes, oh, great, I stumbled into a Chiefs channel that has crossed the line. Wink, wink. Tony, I love you. We're going to talk about that. Perry, what's up, brother? Man, we got some love from north of the border here. Kevin, what's up? He goes, yo. Pair of Canucks in the house. This is awesome. Slasher, man. You know what? We're gonna talk a little Eagles Cowboys, man. I hope the Eagles crash and burn in the playoffs. They absolutely suck. Secondary imploded in the span of 2-3 weeks. We're gonna talk about that too. Let's start off with what happened last night, Monday Night Football. I was looking at a pair of bad games here, and for those of you, I don't know if you can see this or not here. This is awesome. Keith sent this to me earlier. By the way, as somebody who drives a lot, I see this way too often. This is awesome.
I saw that. I thought that was pretty funny.
It is really funny. Let's start off with Monday Night Football. When I personally did predict a Giants upset, so I'm not all that surprised. But the Tennessee Titans scoring 15 points in the fourth quarter, I mean, I don't think anybody saw that coming. So let me ask you guys here, what's the biggest story? Miami losing the 1 seed, losing the home, losing the Monday Night Football game at home in a terrible way? Or is the bigger story the Tennessee Titans and Will Levis, the rookie quarterback? Man, Jaden, man, let's start with you, man. What's the bigger story here?
So, I mean, if you want to, I think more so if you're in the AFC side, it's, of course, it's Miami leaving the door open for Kansas City to still get that 1 seed. Obviously, you need the Ravens to drop some games, but you still have where you have Will Levis going out there and again, I remember looking at this game, and I was more watching that Giants-Packers game because of Tommy DeVito. Come on now, you got to love the
Italian. We're going to talk about that next.
Yeah. So, you got to love Tommy DeVito. But I was really more watching that game, and I was kind of glaring over to the Titans game, and I saw, I think it was 27-13, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like the Miami won, like it is what it is. And like you said, I mean, no one really had them winning. I did think the Giants had a chance. I remember talking all week, and people were like, no way, the Giants, this, that, and the other. But all of a sudden, my friend goes, oh wow, they're in the red zone. I'm like, okay, yeah, the Dolphins are about to score again. He goes, no, the Titans are about to, they're about to go up and win the game. I'm like, wait. I go back and I look at the game, and I'm like, wait, what is going on? So I go back today and I watch most of the game, because I just want to get a perspective. The Miami Dolphins is obviously a potential matchup for the Chiefs, but I think it's just the concern is Miami is a team where, and I do think it's that is the bigger storyline, is Miami is a team where they just seem where they have everything you want on an AFC team and everything you want on an offensive side of the ball, but nothing can just go like right for them versus like teams that you can't just go out and just down again. Like they'll go out and they'll beat like the Zach Wilson Jets. But like if a team has any glimmer of just like talent around them, if you have a Derrick Henry or a DeAndre Hopkins, it just seems like they can't go toe to toe with teams. They can't win in these type shootouts. I don't know why. I don't know why the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if it's just because of their defense, but I think the bigger storyline is just Will Levis. And I do think, he's a guy who can maybe be the guy in Tennessee. But I think the bigger storyline has to be the Tennessee Titans going out and leaving the door open. That's the biggest thing. Leaving the door open, me as a Chiefs fan, for the Chiefs to still get that 1 seed, because Miami still has to go play Baltimore. So that's the biggest thing for me. Thank you, Tennessee Titans, for leaving the door open for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, man, that was a great response, man. He got some energy, man. Jaden bringing some energy. I love it, man. I love it. Keas, man. Man, I got the same question for you, man. What's the bigger story here? Miami choking on the 1 seed, or are we seeing like is there something special brewing in Tennessee that we're not seeing here? What's the bigger story here, brother?
I mean, on one hand, it's hard to believe that somebody who puts mayo in his coffee can lead the Titans franchise. But yeah, it'll be interesting because we were a few weeks ago, we were kind of talking about, hey, what if Mike Vrabel is gone,
Yeah.
And the way things are going now, I don't think there's really a chance. Well, it's hard to say after the last few weeks, right? All these rookie quarterbacks and all these backup quarterbacks coming in and winning games, but it's hard to imagine that Tennessee has a path to the playoffs this year The thing with the Dolphins is, and Jaden covered most of it, it really seems like, and I have a friend who's a Dolphins fan, and he posted on Facebook yesterday that the only team that he's afraid of is like the Eagles or something like that. And I just laughed at him because, listen, there were two teams that I was more concerned about before the Chiefs played them than I was afterwards, and that was the Eagles and the Dolphins. Both of those teams are pretenders. The Dolphins had a big game again, but it was against a team whose defensive coordinator or their film analyst or whatever was apparently Helen Keller, because they were not pressing Tyreek and Waddle. The Chiefs gave you the blueprint. The Bills gave you the blueprint. The Eagles, right? All three of those teams gave you the blueprint against the Dolphins. A couple weeks ago, Dolphins fans got sucked right back in against a team that was playing off and letting Tyreek and Waddle, get a running start. All I'm going to say is, I know that the Dolphins were technically the 1 seed, but I never had them as the 1 seed. I didn't think they were going to finish as the 1 seed. I didn't even think they were going to finish as the 2 seed. I don't think Kansas City gets the 1 seed. I know that's a shocker to say. The path is harder for Kansas City than it is for the Ravens. I think it's going to be harder for Kansas City to go 4-0 than the Ravens to. I think there's a good chance they go 2-2. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the Dolphins are going to keep pace with either of those teams if you look at their schedule. For me, I think as a Titans fan, that win is probably bigger because it's not that I didn't expect the Dolphins to lose this game. I didn't. This is one of the games that I had them as winning. If you want to say this is the bigger story, that's fine. I'm not going to really argue either way, but I didn't see this as far as losing the 1 seed. They were going to lose it one way or the other, in my opinion. It was just what week they were going to lose it. They're going to lose the 2 seed as well. So, to me, I think it's more optimism for the Titans in that they may have their guy, whether he drinks coffee with mayo in it or not.
As somebody who drinks a lot of coffee, I find that really disgusting. Denver Gator has the comment of the day here. Broncos gave them the blueprint. Maybe I'm going to start with you, Keas, but I want both your guys' opinion here. If you watch the game, Tyreek Hill did get hurt. He came back. He made a play late, but the final drive of the game, he was out. He missed, I think, the majority of the second half. I should have all the information. I don't, so I apologize. But with a healthy Tyreek Hill, do the Dolphins win this game?
So I think we talked about this, 2 or 3 years ago, right? We had those Chiefs team with Tyreek and Sammy Watkins and stuff, and we would play the Titans and other physical teams, at the time, Titans, Patriots, a few other teams out there that were tough. And the offense, I don't want to say they crumbled, but the offense was definitely more of a speed and finesse team. The Dolphins are more of a speed and finesse team. You cannot get around it. They need a great tight end out there. They don't have a great tight end. And so these things are going to happen when they play a more physical team like the Titans. I don't know that it really matters. Tyreek wasn't playing defense, was he? Because they had a chance to finish that game with 4 or 5 minutes left. They gave up all those points. It wasn't Tyreek out there playing defense. So,
man, Jaden, I got the same question for you, man. The healthy Tyreek Hill, is he the difference between winning and losing for the Dolphins on Monday night?
So, I mean, I like what Stevie said. He said, well, the defense also had to get stops too. So I think that does play a factor. I would say, yeah, I think they probably would have been able to, pick up some more first downs, maybe bleed the clock out a little bit. But this just goes to show you and we also saw it in the Chiefs game, if Tyreek Hill doesn't play like, Jesus, I just don't think Tua, and you know, I don't know if we have many, you know, Dolphins fans listening. I don't know if you want to hear this, but I just don't think Tua is that guy. I just don't. I don't think he's capable of going out there with just a Jalen Waddle and some other playmakers and going to go win a game. I don't. And God forbid, you know, Tyreek Hill comes up limping, because if you're up by 15 points in the fourth quarter and you you shouldn't need Tyreek Hill. Can I say it like that?
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill in that situation too. And that's what I want to get with these Miami fans. Is me, someone who lives in Florida, I'm surrounded by Miami fans. And they want to praise Tua, and they want to say, well, Tua's, you know, he's top 5, he's in that. Me personally, that's why I think this biggest takeaway is I do think they could have won the game with a guy like Tyreek Hill. You shouldn't need him. You shouldn't need him with when you're up by 15 in the fourth quarter. You shouldn't need him in the second half when you're up like you were. Like I just said, I turned the game up. You shouldn't need a guy like Tyreek Hill to go out there and win you a game. I think this really just falls on Tua. Look what happened in the Miami game. Tyreek Hill got limited. Look what happened with Tua. He got limited. So I think that's the biggest takeaway is you shouldn't need Tyreek Hill. But yes, I think they would have got it done versus the Tennessee Titans team.
You know, it's funny. I had a guest come on a couple of weeks ago when the Chiefs played the Dolphins, Pete Stakes, and he said that he is probably the only person, and that's a Dolphins fan, that says that they should probably move on from Tua because he's not the guy. And I'm like, look, the guy can't stay healthy, and that's the biggest problem. Mm-hmm. I said back then, I said, sooner or later he's going to get hurt. Now, he hasn't gotten hurt, but Tyreek Hill did. But Keas brings up a good point, man. Are any one of you guys, you know, scared of Tennessee? Are you looking at Tennessee next year and like, oh man, that's a dangerous team. They got a quarterback, a good defense, or is it just like, hey, look, Miami choked and that's just Miami?
I think it's a mix of both, right? But
right,
you know, I think there's a danger of teams that come on hot towards the end of the season, right? Every year it seems like there are teams that come on hot like the end of the season, and at least for me, I'm always like, okay, this team's, you know, in the back of my mind for next year. And it just doesn't seem to work like that. You know, most of the time, maybe Lions aside, most of the time it just doesn't work like that. You end up having that same cycle. You know, there's just so much turnover year after year on an NFL roster that, like, if Levis is the guy, okay, you know, that saves you from having to find that guy. You know, in the draft. The question is, you know, what do you mean by that guy? Is he going to be in that kind of Derek Carr, you know, category, Jimmy Garoppolo category where, you know, he's pretty solid, Ryan Tannehill, you know, where they're solid enough that you're not necessarily, you know, you have a pretty decent game manager, but they don't have that it factor that we as Chiefs fans are used to seeing every week. You know, you can even throw Josh Allen out there as, you know, those two guys have that it factor that a lot of other quarterbacks really don't have. You know, if you want to throw Lamar and Jalen Hurts, you know, a few other quarterbacks, you can just see it, you know, which comes back to Tua, because it's funny, you guys talking about and Jalen talking about Jesus. Dolphins fans really do think that Tua is Jesus playing quarterback, and it's insane to me. And someone on Twitter asked the question, it was like a Dolphins Twitter page, and it was like, or X, whatever you want to call it. And they were like, if you could bring back one former Dolphin, you know, to add to this year's team, who would it be? And somebody said, you know, a Chiefs fan, like, quote tweeted, and it was like, the fact that all these Dolphins fans are not saying Dan Marino tells you like how delusional they are about their quarterback. Clearly Dan Marino is the answer, and I'm not even a Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And absolutely. And what I want to get to the Titans because it's funny you say that is, you know, obviously, you know, I like to stream. I like to do a lot of stuff on YouTube, TikTok. The number one thing I saw in this past offseason was a lot of Titans fans, you know, thinking they were the team. I do like Will Levis. I don't know if Will Levis will ever be like the guy. You know, I think he can be a Ryan Tannehill type guy where, you know, he's a starter. He's a solid starting quarterback. But for me, you know, with the Titans, you know, kind of going back to your question, it's kind of just one of those things where it's like they won a game. You know, I think, you know, Derrick Henry, I don't know if he'll be back. I really don't know if DeAndre Hopkins at his age will want to be back again. He may say, hey, man, I ain't getting any older. You know, I really should have probably just signed with the Chiefs anyway and just taken less money and went there. But to me, really, no, I just think it's the Titans. You know, they kind of just, you know, found a spark at the end of the season. Because like you guys said, all of a sudden, the NFL, Titans news, they were talking about, hey, maybe do we get rid of, Vrabel, or, is this, we move on from our head coach. So, that's why I'm kind of went to Titans. I think it's just, they got a good win that, they kind of caught fire. And like I said, the Titans are the type of team where if you get in a shootout with them, that doesn't really work for them. Every now, we saw versus the Chargers. That's also Brandon Staley. That's a whole new different thing. They won in a shootout that way. But like I said, I think it's just more so, the Dolphins kind of choked it away.
And this is really great because I agree with you guys completely. And we got some smart people here in the chat because I was floored by how much Dolphins before the season started. I laughed about it when Tyreek Hill said that Tua was more accurate than Mahomes because, like, he has to say that it's his guy. He can't be like, yeah, I left a Ferrari in Kansas City. Now I'm driving a Toyota Corolla. I mean, that's what he's thinking, but he can't say it. He can't say it, but we got some smart people here that realize that Tua is not really the right guy. And this is going to be a fun story because Justin Herbert got $250 million. Joe Burrow got $275. I say this to people, and a lot of people think I'm making this up. Tua's agent right now is angling for a $300 million deal. I promise you. And it's going to be a fun story because Miami has to look at Tua, and they're going to have to say no or yes. And if they say yes, I think that sinks their team, man. I really think it sinks their team. Because I think this was just kind of Miami just proving that, they're not one seed. So you guys, great comments here. Denver Gator. I wish I would have thought of this because Goodfellas is one of my all-time favorite movies. Tommy DeVito doing the whacking now. Green Bay got his shine box. Man, I'm going to start here with Keas, man. Keas, what's the bigger story here? Green Bay, they win this game. They're 7-6. They're in 6th seed. Now they're 6-7. They're fighting for a playoff spot. Is it a bigger story after beating the Lions and after beating the Chiefs? You choke on Monday night, or is the bigger story this undrafted rookie quarterback from New Jersey winning 3 straight games?
Yeah, I think it's clearly DeVito and the Giants winning 3 straight games. I don't think that the Packers losing this game will stop them from making the playoffs. I think that there's still a pretty decent path for them to make the playoffs. And, maybe they were overlooking the Giants. And if that was the case, this could be the kind of wake-up call they need the rest of the way to not overlook any of the rest of their opponents. But we'll see, because it could be that coaching staff is a little tired from all the work they put in for 2 really good game plans to beat the Lions and the Chiefs, who are, in my opinion, they're Super Bowl contenders. So, yeah, give it to DeVito.
All right, give it to DeVito. Jaden, man, what's the bigger story here? Green Bay choking or the local kid from nowhere winning 3 straight?
I think you got to go with Tommy DeVito. You got to go with Tommy Cutlets. I mean, come on. He's free, not just from, he's from New Jersey, but look at, he had the agent in there looking like he's from The Sopranos.
Oh, yeah. I wish I would have brought that up. I mean, what a great story. I mean, that looks awesome. I wish I would have had that. I forgot about that. It's awesome.
I mean, who doesn't love a good, backup quarterback going in? You got to remember this, like, the Giants last year, they were 9-8 or 10-7, whatever they were. But they were a playoff team last year.
9-8, and they won
9-8, right? So they were a playoff team last year. So it's like, maybe if they would have, who knows if they would have went to Tommy Cutlets earlier in the season where they would be. But I really think it's got to be Tommy. Even though there is a lot to be said about the Green Bay Packers, and not that I hate the Packers, but after the Packers just kind of got some wins going, their heads just got super big. And I remember I was streaming on TikTok, and I had my pick'ems, and I had the Giants, and some people were just, they were giving me this stuff. You don't know ball, this and that. I'm like, hey, the Giants are coming in. They got kind of some swag. They got kind of some juice right now with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. So it's got to be Tommy DeVito. I mean, he's still living, in his mom's basement, eating chicken cutlets, getting his laundry done, but going out and throwing dimes. And, hey, shout out Tommy DeVito. Playing well right now. Hopefully, he has a chance to fight for that QB job even next year. But it's got to be Tommy.
Oh, I agree here. This is a great story here, and I'm dying to hear what Keas has to say about the NFC playoff picture because it gets really interesting. Before the show started, I didn't send you guys a great outline, but I did send you something. So I'm going to ask you something I didn't prepare for. Somebody on social media, I should have screenshot it, but somebody said the biggest winner of this game was Daniel Jones, and I'm thinking to myself, how the hell is Daniel Jones the winner here when some undrafted rookie just won 3 games and Daniel Jones couldn't do shit? So, like, can you guys help me out? How did Daniel Jones help his case here? I mean, either one of you guys, am I nuts? Is this guy crazy? Is he seeing something I'm not seeing? How did Daniel Jones win here?
He's still getting paid. I mean, that's one. That's about the only thing I can think of. He's getting paid, so.
Yeah, so I mean, unless he's trying to, I'm trying to get into the mind of some of the people on the internet, but unless he's trying to say, you know, he'll get traded and he'll go to a better situation. He's a backup. He just gets to just chill out and get paid $40 million a year. I don't know how this could help Daniel Jones, who they were probably going to draft a quarterback in the draft anyway, and he'll get benched. But now that you got the face of New York, I mean, I'm on TikTok, and I see guys, you know, who own pizza shops talking about Tommy DeVito eats here for free. And it's like, you know, when you have just a guy, especially in New York City, a guy who represents the city like he is and from the city, Italian, you know, so I don't really know how this is remotely a winner for Daniel Jones.
I don't know. I saw that and I was like, how the hell did he win? If anything, you know, I'm with you. I love stories like this. I love the Josh Dobbs story. I love this. I would love nothing more than for him to get a legitimate chance to be the starter. But I threw you guys a curveball, so I apologize here. Denver Gator. By the way, Denver Gators has been saying this since Levis was a junior at Kentucky, but Levis is to me what Newman is to Seinfeld. 99 overall with the Sweet 18 jersey. Says it's my boy Jaden, man. This is a friend of yours, man, or just one of your groupies? Or what's going on?
We got Dustin. So we got Dustin includes a lot of you guys may know him as That Vikings Fan on TikTok. He has great Vikings content. One of the bigger guys.
This guy has a Vikings channel?
Vikings channel, one of the bigger Vikings guys on YouTube and TikTok. So yeah, make sure you guys go, of course, check him out.
If you can put your link in the channel, if I'm not following you already, I tried to get a hold of a Vikings fan to come on before the Chiefs played the Vikings. He said he would, and he flaked last minute. I have no idea why. I have no idea.
You ever need someone to talk Vikings football?
Pissed at that.
He was just on some Vikings podcast. I don't know if you know Dustin Baker. Pretty sure his name is. He's a big Vikings guy. He was on his podcast. He's had some NFL guys on there. But absolutely. That Vikings fan on TikTok. Make sure
put that link in there, especially if you do some Vikings history, man. I'd love to talk purple people. Parkington. Oh God, I can go on for days and days here, and I just had a brain freeze here. Number 44, I follow him on Twitter. Chuck Foreman. Oh, I love that dude. Yeah. Oh, I love Chuck. Okay. Get back down here. I'm back down. I went on a history rant. I love it, but yeah. Number 99 overall. Please send me the link here. I would love it here. Hatter's House 710, man. Go Lions. Jane, if you're not aware, man, we got strong Lions following here. OnePride 40 was supposed to be on the show, but he was so sick after Lions losing, he couldn't make the show tonight. So hopefully, you know, some hopes and, you know, sending some prayers his way, man. But go Lions here. We are going to talk about that in a little bit. King of New York sent the cheesehead. Some's crying. Love it. It's funny because I predicted the Giants to win, and then I saw Green Bay go up. And I was like, okay, well, you know, they're going to win. He's not going to come back. Because at the time he had I think it was 100 yards passing, 70 yards rushing. I'm like, it's too much. I mean, what a great Monday night. Some really great Monday night games, which of course Sunday was horrible, but haters, Funk's in the house here. Haters, he beat Tommy 2 times. Oh God, what a great name that is. Oh man, why can't I think of this stuff, man? This is just some really great stuff here. Funk says, just popped in, say what's good, everyone. I'll listen in the morning. Have a good show and hit that like button. Hey, Funk, I know you listen in the morning. I know you're busy, man. Dude, listen, you called it, by the way. This is a hardcore great Lions fan who came on my show Friday, and he said, look, Bears are going to win this one. Watch. And he's right. Perry says that the Finns were smart. They should put the draft picks into tag on Tua and see if the team bites, see if they get first and third round. I agree with you, Perry. I had a Dolphins fan come on. He said the same thing. And you know what? He said that like 99% of Dolphins fans don't even think he's a real Dolphins fan. There's lots of Tua love. I'm kind of surprised Jaden feels the same way that I feel, and that the way I just forgot his name. I literally said his name. I forgot. Baby, yes. That's my tip for you, Jaden. Always call the girl baby because you don't want to be, doing the deed and calling her the wrong name. Look at this, man. Look at this. Gooch, the talent, the B in the Bak Talk Brothers. He's in the house. Wait, is that Jaden from Jaden's? That is Jaden from Jaden's jerseys, man. I got
one on right now.
Link. Is that a Jaden's jersey?
Dan, yeah, it is. I had to put on the Jason Dunn out. Jaden, I need a new black Patrick Mahomes jersey. We are 0-2 when I wear it on Dan's show.
Really?
I can't wear it anymore. I cannot wear it.
You know what? You're right. You did mess up.
So the funny thing is, my dad, he wanted a black Kelsey one, and every time he wears the black Kelsey one, we lose. Every single time he tries to wear the black Kelsey one, we lose. And my favorite one is the Mahomes black Kelsey one, or the Mahomes black one. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I wear that one all the time, but every time my dad wears it, the black Kelsey jersey, he's got to stop. He just got to stop wearing the black.
Maybe
Kelsey
we're
one.
wearing them at the same time.
He wears a Montana. He wears a Joe Montana white jersey, and we win every time. So I'm like, maybe you just need
the white. Is it the white Chiefs one or the white Niners one?
It's the white Chiefs. That's the white Chiefs. It's the 1994 75th anniversary.
I love the white. I love the white Chiefs.
Because that's the only other jersey we've ever had, the 75th anniversary one.
So I got the link to your YouTube channel, and you have the link to your jerseys in the YouTube. Or if you want to, you can put the link below. I only put the link to your YouTube channel. I dropped the ball there, man. But hopefully I can have you come on again, promote your jerseys, because I have a bunch. I have you know what, I'm gonna stop ranting here.
Dan's promo code is Dan loves threesomes.
Dan. You know what? Do you remember Brandon Flowers? So in 2012, the Chiefs sent jerseys out, and I picked up, and I wanted Brandon Flowers. I love Brandon Flowers. So remember, use number 24, right? Mm-hmm. It's 42 on the front. It's just kind of a microcosm of the Chiefs organization of 2012.
Especially in 2012.
Yeah, it's just a microcosm of 2012. I picked up, it's like 42. What the hell? And I was like, what's a free jersey?
You gotta have. I hope you still have that.
I do. I have it. It's funny because it's 24 on the back, but it's 42 on the front. You know what? Next time you come on, I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna wear my 42 Brandon Flowers jersey. But yeah, it was just kind of, I was like, what the hell? They sent me the wrong. Yeah, but anyway, after Purdy, Dobbs, Browning, DeVito. Yeah, I mean, to tell you the truth, I love all these stories with backup quarterbacks. I should just, I'm going to stop ranting because I could go on through a rant of NFL history about great quarterbacks that have come from nowhere, and it's always a good story. I think the New York Giants regret signing Jones. There was a Giants fan before the season started that just kept on going on and on about how he's a Daniel Jones hater. And I remember he had a comment about, remember Giants fans were chanting him as MVP? And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. He's got to do more and throw for 3,000 yards in a season. And I'm right and that guy's wrong. But, Perry, they do.
Hey, Dan, you got something happening in your comments here.
What is going on here?
That's right. Well, that's one of my guys, Grizzy.
What?
No, at the bottom.
I'm not really sure what this is going on. You know what? I'm not really sure. I don't know who you are, dude. I'm gonna put you in timeout for a little bit, and that was something weird. All right. You should just kick Jaden. I don't think he's a Raiders fan. I'm seeing this. By the way, man, that is just a sweet setup that you have there. You got the flag, you got the Chiefs, you got some jerseys. I mean, that is just sweet, man.
I think that's the same way that Gooch is an Auburn fan, and that
Denver Gator is a
LSU fan,
and it is. By the way, 99 overall. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Load and non-drafted quarterbacks should make your team. You know, it's funny. It's I just love these stories, and it's just, I think it's great for the NFL. And you know, there's always questions about, you know, should you draft a quarterback, and you got to be careful. I mean, there's a guy coming out in the draft, Caleb Williams. I'm telling people, like, watch out. Like I don't know. And now you get guys coming out of undrafted 7th round picks. You know, it's a great thing for the NFL. If you feel the guy is not worth his money, let him walk and put the tag on him. And some love for Gooch here, man. I'm going to bring on, this is just a great chart here. Keas went ahead and set this up, and hopefully everybody can see it here. This is phenomenal. I kind of want to go over it. I want to get Keas' opinion here. I'm going to get Jaden's opinion on it. I'm going to give my opinion here. We're going to go bottom to top here, and number one pick contention. Now, please note, Keas is aware that the Chicago Bears own the Carolina picks draft, so it says number one pick competition. We all know that he's referring to the Bears, but he did the chart like this because there's 32 teams. He's not putting Chicago there twice, so that's what we're looking at. And the New England Patriots are also in competition for the number one pick in the draft, which by the way, I'm like secretly hoping the Patriots get the number one pick in the draft, just for fun, because then it's like, does Belichick use it? Do you want to get rid of him? Do you start over? So many things here. So Panthers 32, Patriots 31 here. Jaden, man, you're the guest here. You got any thoughts on the two worst teams in the NFL here?
So main thing I want to talk about the Panthers is, you know, someone, you know, my brother, he end up going to school in North Carolina. So I actually do know a lot of people that are Panther fans. The Panthers are in limbo. And I always say this a lot about a lot of the teams. So, like, there's been times where the Chiefs, you know, back in the day when we were just, you know, it was the Brady Quinn days and it was the Matt Castle days, whoever it may be, Damian Heward, you still had a guy, right? You still had either, like, you had a Larry Johnson, you had a Jamal Charles, you know, or you drafted a guy that was like, okay, we at least can hang our hat on this guy. Typically with teams, you know, you can say, okay, our team is horrible. We don't have the coach. We don't have the receiver. We don't have the offensive line, but we got the quarterback. Panthers have none of that. They don't have the coach. They don't have the receivers. They don't have any of these people. So that's the thing, is where you have it where usually typically if you're Carolina, like, okay, you have Bryce Young, who's the future. I personally don't think Bryce Young is the future for the Carolina Panthers. I think that was that's going to go down. It's one of the bigger misses. You know, when you draft a quarterback that small, when you have a guy that small, usually, you know, you have an element like Kyler Murray where they're either fast or, you know, there's something where they can make up for that ability of being a smaller, nimbler guy. So I just think right now the Panthers are in limbo. They're in limbo. With the Patriots, right? You have the draft pick next year. You can go get Caleb Williams. You can go get Drake Knight. You can go get whoever you want. But right now, for the Carolina Panthers, they're just in limbo. They're literally just in the desert right now. They don't have that first round pick. They can't even move on to a guy like Bryce Young if they want to next season. So I think the Carolina Panthers situation right now is just bad.
Let me ask you something here, because you mentioned you're in the area. We do a lot of draft stuff here, and my first 4, maybe 5 mock drafts, I said it's obvious CJ Stroud's going to be the guy. He was my number one quarterback. I just big man crush on him. To me, it looked pretty obvious. I'm not saying Bryce Young can't be good. I'm not saying that. I liked Stroud. How many guys was this 50-50? Were people just, because I know the Panthers organization just came out and they were like, Bryce Young's the guy 100%. What were fans like there? Was it like, hey, look, we got our guy? How many people wanted Stroud?
So again, from a lot of the people, I talk to is, unfortunately I know a lot of Alabama fans. So, growing, in Florida, in this area, there's a lot of people, who are Alabama fans. So, of course, they're going to think, he's going to be the next franchise guy. But Panther fans, mostly Panther fans, a lot of them want Anthony Richardson. And I agree. I said, you could have another Josh Allen, Cam Newton-esque guy. And I thought he did pretty well. I thought he did do a pretty good job of when he was with the Colts. And I think, you look at the Colts right now, we're an 8-win team, 7-win team, they're 7-win team. What would they be with a guy like Anthony Richardson, how he was playing? For me, when I looked at CJ Stroud, and I'm going to be real honest with you, as you talked about being a history guy. I'm a big history guy. I always like to look back in people's track record, and sometimes I don't like to do this, but you name me. You're, like you said, you're a history guy. Name me an Alabama quarterback since the 60s that has worked out. Personally, I'm a Sooner fan. You can't count Jalen Hurts as an Alabama quarterback. He did not finish. I don't count Troy Aikman as an Oklahoma quarterback because he finished at UCLA. You can't count Jalen Hurts as an Alabama quarterback. Name me an Alabama quarterback outside of Stabler and Joe Namath that has worked out from Alabama.
No, you can't do it. You can't do it.
It's impossible. Why?
What's funny? Hurts, when I watched him play at Alabama, I said he's going to have to play running back in the NFL.
Correct. 100%. Yeah. And that's kind of what my opinion, when you ask me, what was, the kind of feel of a guy like Bryce Young? For me, I'm like, well, when you are playing Alabama, right? And it's kind of like, and I say this a little bit about Brock Purdy. If I have 5 first-round wide receivers, at most of the time, I'm not making big-time plays. That guy's making big-time plays. If I can get him on a slant route, he's going to take his house. 7 guys that are defensive players that are going to go in the first round, that's going to help me out even more. So I think that's why Ohio State and Alabama quarterbacks, and you see it too with Ohio State, is I didn't really believe in Stroud. And I had to just say, Jaden, slap on the wrist, because the way CJ Stroud has been playing as a rookie quarterback has been sensational. So I think the more people wanted Anthony Richardson rather than Bryce Young, but just the pure confidence. I mean, I've never seen a team so confident in their quarterback, trading the things they traded, and just besides Marcus Russell, and then just being absolutely wrong on a guy. And again, it's early for Bryce Young. I don't want to sound like he's never had a chance. But usually at this point of a guy in a rookie season, Trevor Lawrence, guys like that, you see glimpses. I've not seen a glimpse from Bryce Young yet.
Did you say that there was guys that wanted Richardson?
There was a lot of Panthers fans that wanted Anthony Richardson.
Really?
Yeah. I think that Cam Newton-esque similarity kind of was the only really thing there. But a lot of guys wanted Anthony Richardson.
Well, I'm going to admit something that I'm going to lose a lot of credibility since you said you're a history guy. I liked Ryan Leaf a lot better than Peyton Manning. So
wow.
I did. I also like I like Trubisky more than I liked Mahomes. So
because you both like Coke.
Yeah.
Dan, tell us, how did you feel about Baby? I just lost his name, so I'm going to say Baby Manziel. Did you like him too?
You know what? I was not a Manziel fan, even though he was so much fun to watch in college.
Right.
To watch or party with?
He was both. Denver Gator says Drake is the guy. I predict Caleb Williams will be good, but not for a few good seasons, then irrelevant. Denver Gator, I am so embarrassed to admit this. I have not watched Drake play yet. I have some stuff on my DVR. I haven't watched him play yet. I need to, but this is going to be Draft Central here in a bit. So we have the next tier, missing playoff teams. I mean, we can all agree here. I think Arizona, if you interrupt me if I'm wrong here, but we can all agree Arizona, Washington, Chicago, New York, Tennessee, the Raiders. Probably the Jets' impressive win. Probably the Chargers. Of course, I want to touch base on this with the Chargers and the Raiders later on in Herbert injury. The team that stands out to me, Keys, and I want to ask you about it, is team number 23, the Minnesota Vikings. And the reason why I want you to kind of elaborate about this is because if the playoffs were to start today, the Minnesota Vikings would make the playoffs. So what you're saying is that right now they have the 6th spot. They're not going to make the playoffs, though, correct?
Correct. They play the Lions twice. They play the Packers, and they play the Bengals. There's a great possibility they go 0-4.
Jane, man, what are your thoughts, man? I mean,
Yeah. So a lot of people may not know this, but I'm originally from Minnesota. So I was born in Minnesota, but I was raised in Florida. But my dad's from Kansas City, so that's why I'm a Chiefs fan. But my brother, diehard Vikings fan. A lot of my friends, as you can see, they were in the chat. They're Vikings fans. I'm sorry. I mean, like you guys said, there is a possibility they miss the playoffs. I do think they can. I do think they can get in the playoffs. I think they have to at least split with Detroit. They got to split with Detroit. They can't get swept by Detroit. But I think some of the other games are winnable. But just the quarterback position is what's scary. Is you have Josh Dobbs, who, like you said, an awesome story, and then just reality that the clock hit 12 o'clock, and not Snow White, but Cinderella came back to reality. So I do think they can make the playoffs. It comes down to how well can Nick Mullins play, and how well can the running backs help Nick Mullins. I think that's what it comes down to, because as of today, they announced that Nick Mullins will be the starter. He'll probably end up being the starter overall, because the Vikings just tied the lowest scoring game in NFL history with 3 points versus the Raiders.
I don't know how you do that. I just don't. I mean, how do you do that in 2023?
I don't know. And I couldn't really watch. And I do like to glare at the Vikings because, like I said, a lot of my friends are. My brother's a diehard Vikings fan. My mom's a diehard Vikings fan. So I'll glare at their games. But I just remember getting texts from, Dustin and some of my other friends, and they were like, yeah, it's 3-0. I'm like, okay. And then I look at them, I'm like, wait, if the Chiefs are in the third quarter, you guys are in the third quarter. I'm like, oh, they may go this whole game with only scoring 3 points, or 0-0. And I'm like, they may only score 3 or 6 points. But I think the Vikings can. I think they can get into the playoffs. They have to split with Detroit, and it all comes down to how well Nick Mullins can play. But again, I do feel bad for a guy like Kirk Cousins. So this Vikings team did get hot. But, I mean, there is a possibility they do miss the playoffs. I'm sorry, some of my Vikings buddies may see this. But, hey, I'm not a Vikings fan. I was born in Minnesota, but not a Vikings fan.
Hey, Jaden, what's your realistic record for the Vikings those last 4 games? The 2 against the Lions, 1 against the Packers, and 1 against the Bengals, who look relevant all of a sudden without Joe Burrow.
So I think the biggest game, and obviously it's not going to come down to Detroit, is the Green Bay game. I think whoever wins between those 2 teams, that is the team. And I said this to them, is when Green Bay beat the Chiefs, I said this to a lot of my buddies. I said, that game is going to be to get into the playoffs. Whoever wins that game is going to get in. I said, you have Green Bay who's fighting for a playoff spot. You have the Rams who are fighting for a playoff spot. And obviously, I think the Seahawks, too, are trying to get that last spot. But they obviously, I think they still have a tougher road than the Packers and the Vikings. I think, realistically, if they split, they can get in, because they have 7 wins right now, correct?
Yeah, they're 7-6. And for those of you that don't know, they played Detroit the last game of the season, and what was it, week 16? 16. The last 3 weeks of the season, Minnesota, it's Detroit. I forget who they play in the middle. I know Detroit plays Minnesota, Dallas, Minnesota. Yeah. But I off the top of my head, I don't know the team sandwiched in between Minnesota. Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They play the Lions twice. They play the Packers and the Bengals. Those are their 4. The Packers are playing the Bears and the Panthers and the Buccaneers. So in my mind, the Panthers should win at least 3, and the Vikings should lose it at least 2, if not 3. And I think there's a good chance they could lose all 4 of those. So between those 2 teams, and crazy things can happen. We saw that this last weekend.
They basically, and that's what I'm saying. So right now, who's the Vikings are the 6th seed, correct?
The Vikings are the 6th seed.
So then who's the 7th? Is it the Packers?
It is the Packers currently. And this is one of the things I wanted to talk about because this is so much fun right now. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 teams in the NFC right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so who's going to get in, who's not going to get in? And I want to ask that next. I got a little behind on comments here. Perry has a great comment. Why are so quarterback needy teams? Can you get it? Yeah, exactly. And I can't wait for the draft to start because there's a lot of really good quarterbacks coming in this draft, and a lot of guys. It's going to be very interesting. I don't know. We summoned the Tua Jesus Christ. Denver Gator Denver Gator, you got a wrench, feel free to use it. I don't know why people are I don't know what did you do, Denver Gator, man? I mean, what are you doing down there? I mean, by the way, Perry, I want to highlight this because I want to come back to this. And by the way, these are my burner accounts. For those of you that don't know, this is a very angry OnlyFans subscriber of mine. So I apologize in advance. He got the premium package. He wanted a little more, and so I apologize. Caleb Williams is 2.0. So, I could see Washington trading up for a quarterback. Absolutely. And just so you know, Caleb Williams is from the D.C. area. Just throwing that right now. I wanted it too, man. I wanted it too, Denver Gator. And the Jets do have a first-round pick this year. The Jets do have a first-round pick. Last week and 2 weeks prior at Bankel. It's some good games, man. Hey, Gooch, man, I appreciate you being here. And so, guys, for the comments here, I apologize for my OnlyFans subscriber being angry. So hopefully you guys will forgive me for that. Potential wild card here. And, it's funny because I love what Keas did here. He has all 3 of the NFC South teams as potential wild cards. Jaden, I'm going to ask you a tough question here. We're going to start off here. He's got now. I know I'm judging from the order, and because Keas is smart enough, he has 18, 19, and 20. So I'm pretty sure that's the order he has them in. Jaden, man, we got a couple weeks to go.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to win that NFC South? And please tell me they're going to be a 7-10 team.
So I would like it to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm a Sooners guy. I'm a big Oklahoma Sooners football fan. As you can see, I'm rocking my Jayhawks for basketball. I know it's kind of an oxymoron, but I'm hoping it's the Bucs because of Baker. But I don't think it's going to be the Bucs. I truly do think it's still going to be the Saints. I know they've lost some games in that side of the division, but I still think they have the most talent around there. It's just Derek Carr is just. I don't know how he's fumbling the bat. And that's what I don't understand about this division. It's like if any one of those teams, obviously we're not going to talk about the Panthers. I just talked about how bad they were. But any of those 3 teams, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans, if their quarterbacks were playing any sort of just above average football, and I know Baker's playing decent ball right now, and so is Desmond Ridder, but that division's so weak. I mean, oh my God! If they could just realize, one of those teams gets a guy, obviously, and we just talked about this upcoming draft, they could go out and just have success in that division for a long time coming. But I do think it's still going to be the Saints. I think they still have a defense to do it. I still think they're right there in the thick of it. So I still think it's going to be the New Orleans Saints to finish that division with just some of the defensive guys they got. Derek Carr has just got to just weather the storm.
It's funny because I agree. I've been picking the Saints myself, and I just did a video on my picks video, which, by the way, it's in the description below. Check it out if you haven't already. It's terrific. The Eric McCoy, Derek Carr fight. I mean, how many? And it happened on the field. They really got into it with each other. I was floored. And if any one of these guys had a quarterback, it's their division for the taking. Keas, you have 18, 19, and 20. I'm assuming that's the way that you have them finishing in the division.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at their schedule, the Falcons have the easiest path. I still think there's a great chance that all 3 of those teams end up 8 and 9. One of them might end up 9 and 8. But look at the Falcons' schedule. They play the Panthers and they play the Bears. Those two on paper, that's always, there's always, you got to take that with a grain of salt. On paper, that should be 2 wins, right? And so, to me, they have the easier path between those teams, because then you also have the Colts and you gotta play the Saints. And if you can take care of business in at least 2 of those games, right? I think the last thing I read was the Falcons have the tiebreaker. I could be wrong in that division. If all 3 teams end up 8-9, but the Falcons have at least the clearest path to get 2, if not 3 wins from what I'm seeing in the remaining schedule there.
No, their schedule is the easiest, and that the offense. And keep in mind, I had a huge man crush on Kyle Pitts coming out of Florida. I mean, that was one guy I just was thinking, man, if only he could fall to Kansas City. Skill position talent's amazing. I really thought Derek Carr was going to be a difference maker with the Saints, and it's just been a complete disaster. Perry, it looks like you got one is for Atlanta. So Perry asks, who do you think will win the NFC South and be one and done in the playoffs? And by the way, they're not going to beat Philly or Dallas, whoever it ends up being. There's no possible. You should never say never, but there's no possibility of really going to win those games here. 1 for the Falcons, two for the Saints is what it looks like. I really like this, and I love what you did here, Keas. I just think this is just absolutely genius here. So for those of you who don't know, there are right now 6 7-6 teams in the AFC. Keas has 4 of them. And for those of you who don't know, there's 7 in the AFC, there's 7 in the NFC. So just doing math here. So for potential wild cards, Keas has his guy as Denver, but I think this was genius what he did. Broncos, Texans, Steelers, Colts. I'm just double checking because I can read, you got 14 through 17. Out of those teams, you got Denver being the final wild card team. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, again, and we don't know what's going to happen when they play the Lions, because honestly, I almost have no idea who the hell the Lions are after the last few weeks. But to me, what I've seen, you can't discount them. But I think if my math is correct, what do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I already have 7 teams from the AFC in there. One of them is going to have to fall out for the Broncos to have their chance.
Oh, you know what? You know what I did is because I'm really smart and on the ball today, I had Miami as an NFC team. So, teaches me. All right. So my mistake here. So for the teams that are getting into the playoffs, you have the Broncos out then. Is that correct?
I mean, I have them right there because there's a good chance that, from the Bills onward, anything could happen, right? You have the Bills and that's the second AFC East team. You have the Browns and the Bengals. That's 3 AFC North teams. I don't know that 3 AFC North teams are going to get there. There's the possibility. I think if any AFC team that's not currently in there gets in, that Denver probably has the best shot from what I've seen right now. And, looking at the Steelers schedule, I hate to say this, but this might be Mike Tomlin's first losing season.
Yeah, I'm a big Tomlin fan, but I'm looking at that. Jaden, man, so there's 7-6 teams in the AFC here, and I misread it here. I misread it. So out of these teams, Keas has Buffalo, Cleveland, and Cincinnati getting in. Denver, Houston, and Pittsburgh and Indiana. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Cleveland's 8-5. That's the team I was adding in there. Final wild card spot, man. Which team gets in? Which team gets? Or let me do this here. That's kind of a difficult question here. Keas potential wild cards: Denver, Houston, Pittsburgh, Indy. Which one of those four gets in, or does any of them get in?
I don't know if I think Denver can get in at that final spot, just because I think they go play the Lions, then they go play Detroit, and if I'm not mistaken, they still have to play Do they play the Chargers again?
Patriots, Chargers, and Raiders.
Yeah, so they have a pretty favorable schedule to get in, but there's just something about knowing Denver, knowing that they could lose to any one of those teams. Obviously, the Chargers are going to be with a backup. Raiders obviously with a backup too, but it's an AFC matchup. It's an AFC West matchup. Like AFC West matchup, anything can happen. The team I think can get in, and I hope does not get in, is the Buffalo Bills. I don't want the Buffalo Bills to get in, and here's why: is and I know I may go a little bit off course here, but so you have the Chiefs, right? And some of the teams you just named, right? The Chiefs are going to have to play one of those teams. Would you rather play Kenny Pickett, or would you rather go play Josh Allen? I'd rather go play Kenny Pickett.
You know what? The way the playoffs would work right now, Kansas City would play Pittsburgh, and I just love it.
Correct. So
I love it.
And this is where I wanted to get at. I know, like I said, I'm kind of straying away from the question, but as a Chiefs fan, I'm always going to just kind of talk about my Chiefs first and kind of elaborate around the question. But if you have a year where you don't have to play Cincy, you don't have to play Josh Allen, as bad as it's been for the Chiefs, or as stressful it's been for the Chiefs, I should say. If you have to go into the playoffs, and no disrespect, you got to go play Cincinnati, or you got to go play Steelers. Then in the second round, you either got to go play Jacksonville or Miami. I mean, I'll take that. If this has been the worst Chiefs team the last 5 years, it's been the worst AFC we've seen in the last 5 years. No Bengals, no Bills would be great. I do think the Bills can get in there, sneak in as a 7 seed. It's just going to be hard because they lost to Denver. That's the only thing. They lost to Denver. So I hate to say it, but the Denver may get in as that 7 seed, even though these Denver Broncos fans need to pump the brakes, celebrating that they're a half a game behind the Kansas City Chiefs. I never thought I'd get to a point. Well, thank God I'm at a point in my life where Denver fans are happy and excited that they're a game behind the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm like, okay, if you want to celebrate that, that's fine. But when I was a kid, when, Peyton Manning was throwing dimes, or, whoever it may be, Jake Plummer was throwing dimes on me, it wasn't about being a half a game behind, but so be it. But, yeah, I think Denver is a team that could possibly get in because of their schedule.
Denver's a team that I really don't want to see in the playoffs, to be perfectly honest with you. And, and when they were 1-5, I laughed when Sean Payton took over, because him and Russell Wilson, I thought was going to be I didn't think it would work out. I kind of laughed now, and they start off 1-5, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, yeah, I told you so. And now Denver Gator says, it warms my heart to hear and watch Chiefs fans have to admit the Broncos are good. Christmas game early.
I've been fair to the Broncos.
Real quick, I want to say, the Chiefs Denver rivalry is good for the NFL. You haven't had it when I was younger. Obviously, it was a little bit, especially in the 90s. It was a little bit better because it was actually competitive, and you were kind of going back and forth towards the end of the 90s there. But now lately we've won the last 15, so it's kind of it's not a rivalry. So I kind of like that there's a rivalry again.
Oh, I do too. And all the Chiefs Broncos is a great rivalry. Mm-hmm. I would love that the Chiefs Raiders could be a good rivalry. Right. I don't see it, guys. I'm going to have one of you. Keas here. Why was Mahomes so mad late in the game? Do I think he cools down? So, Keas, would you like to elaborate why Mahomes was pissed off?
Sure. As I understand it, the issue comes down to, and, I've now heard multiple NFL sources, right? Like Dan Orlovsky, Matt Ryan. I forget what Matt Ryan was on the last couple of days. Matt Ryan was talking about this. Other people, other players, other people associated with the NFL has been talking about this. Is, even though officials technically don't have to warn you, it's like NFL precedent that NFL officiating precedent that an official will warn you or warn the coach, the player at some point in the game if a player is doing something, before they throw a flag on something. And so there will be a warning. But Andy Reid did not get a warning about Kadarius Toney lining off sides. And so as I understand it, that's a majority of what Pat was mad about is like, this is offensive offsides isn't something that, gets called in the NFL. The last time it got called on a Chiefs receiver was 1997. And we just saw last night, multiple instances, including Jalen Waddle lined up in the exact same spot Kadarius Toney was, Sunday. But it was more about the precedent that you warn a coach to warn a player. Dan Orlovsky pointed out that he lined up like this a half a dozen times or so. Nothing was ever said to Andy Reid. Nothing was ever said to Kadarius Toney. So that's like the big part of it. And everyone's going to have their own opinion, and it's it's a very multifaceted, thing that everyone's arguing about. But that's the crux of it, is that refs will warn players, and I even saw a video of Tyreek Hill a few weeks ago. I don't know when the event was, but it was a video of a ref coming up to Tyreek before a Dolphins game and saying, hey, watch out for this, make sure you're not moving forward on your motions, your pre-snap motions, and please do not give anyone a peace sign so I don't have to flag you. This was before a game, right? And so the idea is there's a courtesy extended to players and coaches, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, I think, feel kind of angered that Carl Cheffers, a.k.a. shouldn't be working at Foot Locker, shouldn't even be working at Foot Locker.
Can you elaborate on that story a little bit?
Travis Kelce said that Carl Cheffers is such a bad referee, he shouldn't even be working at Foot Locker. I don't know how many years ago it was. There's a big history between Travis Kelce and Carl Cheffers, Kansas City Chiefs, and Carl Cheffers. That especially goes back to Super Bowl 55, where Carl Cheffers' crew called the most penalties in a half against the Chiefs, like in history, if I recall correctly, right? In one half. So there's a long-standing, history. Carl Cheffers was kind of going through puberty last year or the year before at Arrowhead when the crowd was intimidating him. So there's a history there. And so I think Mahomes and Andy probably thought that it was fairly intentional and personal from him to not give a warning any point throughout the game and then to call that. And from Mahomes' perspective, especially when it had absolutely nothing to do with the play or the outcome of the play, which is its own thing, right? Because I've been asking this and no one's ever answered me. What is, and it has nothing to do with that particular play, just in general, what is the offensive advantage for a wide receiver to line up off sides, right? You make it easier for the defense to press you. So what's the actual advantage? There's no competitive advantage. Like, most penalties are there because there's a competitive advantage you're trying to hold in check. So what's the competitive advantage there is my question.
I don't know if you saw it yet, but I sent you a clip. I'm not sure the rules, so I don't want to post it here. I don't know if you saw it yet. Kadarius Toney on that play actually points over to the official before that play. So he actually points over to you saw it too, Jaden? Yeah. So Kadarius Toney actually points over to the official. Now keep in mind he just pointed, went right back, but so that's the reason, Perry. There's a lot of people that are upset. Perry asked a great question. Is there a team that may move up for Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft like the Falcons did to get Jones? Man, Jaden here, I'm throwing you a tough question here. I don't know how much you do a draft or you don't do draft. If you don't want to answer, I can. But is there a team that could potentially move up for Marvin Harrison Jr. in this draft?
I could see. I know the Bears. They keep winning, so they're that they're gonna their pick, because obviously the Panthers have that pick. But I would say a team like the Bears. So say if they they want to keep Fields and whatever they want to do with that other pick, they're a team that I guess technically gonna move up, but use that other pick to move back. That first overall pick move back, and whoever wants to draft Caleb Williams or that guy they want a future, if that's Drake May or Caleb Williams, technically moving back and then saying, hey, let's go get our guy Marvin Harrison, team him up with either a guy we think that's going to be at 5 or 6, if that's where I think right now, if I haven't looked at the mock draft, and
I got it right here. Chicago picks 1 and 5.
1 and 5. So okay, yeah, so perfect. So if they had 5 and they're saying, hey, either if we want to trade Fields or keep Fields, we get our guy at whatever, we move back, we get Marvin Harrison, and we get the other guy we want at 5. So I think they're a team where they could really look at it like, do we want to stick with Fields after the last couple of weeks of, he just beat the Lions twice. He's made some plays here and there. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy. But there's so many roads, and I think – I'm not a Bears guy. I don't typically like the Bears. But right now I feel like the Bears have set themselves up for the future. If you want to trade Fields for draft picks, do you want to draft a quarterback, or do you want to keep Fields, use that other pick for something? Do you go get Marvin Harrison? So I think the Bears are a team that you could just see draft Marvin Harrison. But a team moving up, I haven't looked at the picks in a while. I know I'm just trying to think of, teams. I would love the Chiefs to do it, but I know that's not going to happen. I know that would take Chris Jones and probably, the rights to barbecue in Kansas City. So I don't think the Chiefs will want to give that up. But, any team that gets Marvin Harrison is going to be big. And whatever teams, that are in the teens, that end up being in the teens, that need a receiver, could end up going to go get him. But, yeah, I definitely think the Bears are a team that you could see go get Marvin Harrison. And I know there's a lot of speculation where they'll have that first pick and they may get Caleb Williams, but Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, so let me ask you here, Keas. Would you want to trade? Let me ask you. I'll condense this here. Is there a possibility a team would trade up into the top 5 for a rookie wide receiver in a quarterback-heavy draft?
Yeah, I think there is. And to go to what Jaden said, I would trade Chris Jones and our 32nd overall pick in a heartbeat to move up to get Marvin Harrison Jr. myself. But, he might not be valuable, though, because, if – don't know what's going on there. But, if Bill Belichick is still with the Patriots, what's to say he wouldn't get Marvin Harrison Jr.? I mean, he's had a problem drafting wide receivers over the years. He coached against Marvin Harrison. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's funny, Perry. This is a great question because New England picks 2, and I'm looking at Arizona at 3. And Arizona, if you're not aware, has 38 draft picks this year. I'm joking, but they have all this extra draft capital. I'm looking at Arizona at 3 and New England at 2. And me and Keas, it's funny because I had OnePride, I had Keas on, and we asked, what's the number one thing that you would change about the Patriots? And I think OnePride said quarterback, Keas said skill position talent, and I said offensive line. So there's a couple of offensive linemen that are in this draft that there's some really high grades on. If you're New England and you've whiffed on receivers, would you give up that number 2 pick because you want an offensive lineman instead? So I think that there's a very strong possibility you could see a 2-3 flop because Arizona has draft capital to burn. But that's a great question. The answer, I think all 3 of us agree that, yes, there's a possibility that Marvin Harrison might there might be a team that trades up and gets him in the draft. So Ravens, be more. The AFC is so competitive. The NFC is soft except for the 49ers. I don't know, man. Dallas looks pretty good, man. And Dallas is going to play Baltimore here in a little bit. So I think the NFC is just top heavy at the 49ers, Cowboys, Eagles, and Lions from there. The Browns can be dangerous. It's funny because Keas has them at number 10, and Keas, let's start off here. Keas, number 10, Cleveland Browns. So the way it works right now, Cleveland Browns are one of the 8-5 teams. They're tied with both Jacksonville and Kansas City. Currently, they hold the number 5 team. Joe Flacco, who was doing what we're doing right now, just sitting on the couch, having some fun, watching football. And all of a sudden he gets the phone call. Hey, I'm gonna be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. You have them as a playoff team.
Yeah, I think what I saw out of Flacco, I was actually surprised to see in a positive way. So I got him there. That was kind of the question mark position, but I think he's going to be solid enough. We'll see what happens the rest of the way out, but I think he's going to be solid enough that they're still going to end up a playoff team.
Yeah, I have to admit, I really thought that they would fall off, and then a couple weeks ago, Gooch came on, and Gooch is like, Don't roll out Cincinnati yet, Dan. Don't roll out Cincinnati yet. And I go, no, you're wrong. They're done. They're dead. They're over with. They're not going to do anything. Joe Burrow's out. He's second best quarterback in the NFL. And you came on, you're like, Dan, Joe Burrow's just a system quarterback. and but you also have the Bengals as a playoff team. I'm giving you a big topic here. How crazy is it that Joe Burrow goes down and the Bengals are going to make the playoffs? How crazy of a story is that?
Yeah, we kind of talked about how the defense was going to take time losing their safeties and having to, slowly bring the defense along. They had their hiccups. The offensive line is still the offensive line. But I think that what we've seen here is that, and I kind of talked about this, when Joe Burrow was Peyton Manning, get the ball out in 2.5 seconds quarterback, when that was the offense that he was fine doing, not too dissimilar to the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, when Joe Burrow was willing to do that, the offense was fine. The offensive line really wasn't an issue. The problem came when Burrow wanted all the long developing plays, and to put up all the numbers and was holding the ball longer, which that offensive line, led by Concrete Blockfeet Jr., that was how you covered for the fact that he's slower than molasses, that he's slower than a glacier is by getting the ball out quickly. You have Callahan as your offensive coordinator. He's got his ties to Peyton Manning. You're supposed to be the guy getting the ball out quickly. And, like Mahomes has been at times in his career, you're too in love with the slow developing plays. And all of a sudden, your offensive line isn't going to work that way. And kind of like the Chiefs offensive line in Super Bowl 55 that had 5-man protection 95% of the snaps. I've forgiven Andy Reid for that, but I digress. So yeah, you bring in, Burrow gets injured, you bring in the backup. He understands how to get the ball out fast because he doesn't want to die too. I could tell a joke right now, but I'm not going to. It's that kind of thing. Is you see what happened to the other guy, and hopefully you learn from their experience.
Yeah, so Jaden, so Ravens B More threw out a great question or the statement. The Browns can be dangerous, and then I kind of split that because I was adamant when Burrow went down that the Bengals were done. Their season is over. He has them as a playoff team. Let me ask you this here. So we got Ravens fan coming in here. Ravens 76 B More fantastic friend of the channel here. Are the Browns a dangerous team in the playoffs? I mean, you got Joe Flacco who was sitting on the couch. He comes in there. No Nick Chubb. I mean, is this team dangerous or is this just some talk here?
So I always revert back to this, right? So back in the day, right, you had, and especially in the playoffs, as we kind of just move into the playoffs here, is two things always seem to matter. And I've noticed in the playoffs, at least the last 8 years, pretty much 8 years, is you have to have a really good quarterback and you have to have a really good head coach. Look at the last 5 guys to win a Super Bowl. Look at the coaching. Look at the quarterback. You have McVay. You have Stafford. You have Andy Reid. You have Patrick Mahomes twice. And you have Tom Brady and you have Bruce Arians, right? So those are the last 4 to 5 guys to win a Super Bowl. When you get into the playoffs, teams that get deep, look who you have. You have Joe Burrow. You got Zach Taylor. You at least have to have one or the other. You either have to have the quarterback or you have to have the head coach. And I think with a team like Cleveland is when you have the really good defense, you have, somewhat of a run game. Yeah, that would have been probably great. They probably could have been an AFC championship type team, in 2004. But right now it's like, you get a good veteran quarterback, who just knows how to make the right throws. But it's like right now, no, I couldn't see, the Cleveland Browns, being a team to make much noise. But again, I'm not going to totally sit there with confidence, be like, a team like a level of the Steelers where I'm kind of sitting there like, I don't think they can make noise. I think the Browns are I have a little bit more respect to them just because how damn good their defense have been.
Yeah, the defense has been impressive. I just wanted to get your opinion here. It was a great comment by Raven 76 Be More. Denver Gator says Broncos Chiefs hasn't been a rival. You know what? I think next year for 2024 it's going to be a rivalry, and it wouldn't surprise me if both Chiefs Broncos games are on prime time. In my opinion, Mahomes wasn't mad at the officials. He was mad about the receivers play this year. Man, Jaden, what's your thoughts here, man? What's your opinion here on Raven 76 Be More comment?
So my whole thing, and sorry I cut out here, guys. My Wi-Fi just crashed, and I'm like, what's going on? But when I came back, you were talking a little bit about, or beforehand, we were talking a little bit about, the outburst and everything that's going on the sideline after the game, and some of the, the call and everything that went down. One thing I wanted to get real quick was, about the call. 2 things can be true about the call. Was Kadarius Toney offsides? Yes. I don't think any Chief fan is, sitting there saying, oh, well, the rest should just let the play stand because it was a cool play. I'm not 7. Okay. Like I understand he was offsides, but when a guy is offsides the whole game, for me, I was a basketball player. If I was playing the whole game, being able to hand check, right? The whole game. And all of a sudden the fourth quarter comes around, they call 3 fouls on me. I'm going to go, like, you let that slide the whole game. Why all of a sudden are you just going to go, nope, now it's a foul? That's why I have a problem with the NFL. It's the inconsistencies where it's, now we want to enforce it. Now we're going to do that. And, you could say, well, they did the same thing with the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying it's right either. The NFL has to get better on being more consistent. They do. And we all know, like you said, the whole Carl Shuffers incident. When it started with Carl Shuffers was 2016 Steelers game, Travis Kelce saying, this dude shouldn't work at Foot Locker. That's when he had it out for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes throws it into the dirt, incompletion. He's over there arguing with Patrick Mahomes. So, you can read the clip saying, I called it fumble, doesn't matter. Carl Shuffers clearly has a problem with the Chiefs. I'm not saying he rigs games for the Chiefs or he wants the Chiefs to lose, whatever it may be. He clearly has an issue with the Chiefs. So, there may be times where he does put his whistle in his pocket. But that's my only problem with the inconsistency with that. But going to the question real quick, there was some of that, Mahomes' frustration. I do think that with the problem with the Chiefs right now and Patrick Mahomes with the frustration, I think the only difference between last year and this year, right, is you have this is the same team as last year. Better defense, same receivers as last year, besides Juju Smith. That is it. That is the same exact team as last year. The only difference is I think there was guys in the locker room, Greg Lewis, Eric Bieniemy, that kept dudes accountable. Player coaches, dudes that can sit there and say, you got to step up. You're not playing how you're supposed to be playing. And really there's no rebuttal because they've been there as players. They can say, hey, man, also go up to dudes and say, hey, man, you're not playing well right now. I've been there, man. We're going to get you going. You're going to get better. How many times do we see Travis Kelce get into fights with Eric Bieniemy, but then go out and have 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, and ball out? I think that's the difference between this year and last year is the accountability. I don't know if Matt Nagy's comfortable enough when he came back to the Chiefs, because he never was in this type of position with this group of guys. He's been with the Chiefs, but never this type of position with the Chiefs to maybe be comfortable enough to call out guys. They have a rookie wide receiver coach right now at the Chiefs. I don't think he's comfortable enough to go up to, MVS and be like, hey, man, you're not playing well. Hey, Sky Moore, you're not playing well. I don't think he's comfortable enough to do that. And I think a guy like Eric Manning and a guy like Greg Lewis, who's been there with the Chiefs, been around these guys, were comfortable doing that. I think the frustration was for sure not just with the refs. There was some of that with the players.
Yeah, that's a great comment. And Keas has been on board the last couple of weeks about bringing David Coley, former wide receivers coach, former Houston Texans head coach.
Yeah,
and I think Keas brought it up that he's unemployed. And hey, man, we got a problem. Let's make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Denver Gator. This is the thing I love about doing this channel. This is what I want. Crazy things, and I'm not calling you crazy, Denver Gator, but just things that Justin Fields to Atlanta. What can the Bears get for Fields? So let's have this be a two-part question. I'll start with Keas. Number one, Justin Fields, is he the guy? And number two, what could the Bears get for Fields?
Yeah.
Is Fields the guy for the Bears, or is Fields the guy for the Falcons?
Is he the guy for the Bears?
To me, I think the jury is still out, and I think we got to see him with a new head coach, which I think we will, to kind of finish going there. We've seen some progression. How much more progression are we going to see? Are they going to lean towards an offensive-minded guy and bring someone like that in? And I think that's kind of the question. Even if he were to end up with the Falcons, I think that they would need to bring in a different head coach,
right?
Who would still have to be offensive-minded. And I know, Dan, your thing about teams not following an offensive head coach with another one, or defensive with another.
Yeah,
but yeah. And listen, I don't think you're going to get more than what the 49ers got out of Trey Lance, but I don't think you can get enough from Fields yet to where, unless everybody in that building is sure that he's not the guy and that none of it has to do with the coaching staff, I don't think that you can swallow that sunken cost. Now, if you're on board, if everybody is on board, like the 49ers were with Trey Lance, then fine, because you don't want to fall into this, the sunk cost fallacy and just keep putting it off. But I'm not sure that we fully know the answer yet. So I would hold on to him. And I mean, I think that you would be hard pressed to maybe get it back into the second. Maybe. I don't know, because we keep talking about how good this quarterback draft is. We got all these backup quarterbacks who are outshining, the starting quarterbacks. One or two of those guys might get traded next year on top of everybody getting drafted. So who the hell is going to give a pick for somebody's leftovers? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but, if a team is giving up on a quarterback, in every other, GM's mind, that quarterback has lesser value. It's just the way it is. It's that way in the dating world. It's like that in the job world. It's like that in the NFL.
All right, hey Jaden, that was a great answer, Keith. So two-part question, and you can touch this. I think this is interesting. By the way, this would be a lot of fun. But the two-part question is: Justin Fields a guy? And if he's not the guy, what could the Bears get for him?
So I think that's a great question, and he hit it on the head. Steve's hit it on the head. Is what do we mean by like the guy? So to me, like, is he a franchise guy? Is he a guy that can get you in the playoffs? Can he be a Justin Herbert type guy? Sure. Now, can he be a guy to just go win you a Super Bowl? Not with this head coach, like he just said. I don't know why the Bears keep doing this, and I think some teams do this, is they go with what they know. Is the Bears have always been a team that's just like, we're defense, we're run the ball, we're 80s. It's like, you need to go get yourself an offensive-minded coach. When's the last time they went, I guess they got Matt Nagy, and if you look at it, he's kind of been the only successful coach the last, it's weird. Like, he went to the playoffs, 2-3 times with the Bears. So it's like, you went with an offensive coach. Obviously, you had Mitchell Trubisky, but hey, he got you to the playoffs twice. You need to go back, and if you want Justin Fields to be the guy, you got to go get a different head coach. You got to go get a guy. Look at Shane Steichen, I think, for the Colts. He's done a great job over there, and he doesn't even have his first round QB. He's working with Minshew over there. So I think he can be the guy for Atlanta, but again, I don't think they can do it under Smith. I think they have to go get a different head coach. I think they have to go get a guy who's more offensive oriented because they already have the defense over there. We already see the defense already in Atlanta. But I think if you want to trade Fields, and this is why I said earlier, the Bears have set up their team great. They brought in a guy like Ryan Poles over from Kansas City. They're going to have the most money in free agency. They could trade Fields for a second-round pick, possibly a first if they can swindle a team. A second-round pick. You have the 2 first-round picks. They're setting themselves pretty pretty in that in the North, which a Lions team who I don't think is for real. You have a Vikings team who's trying to figure out what they're going to do at the QB position next year. And then you have the Packers who are still trying to find their way as well, which they could end up setting themselves up. So I think they can get at least a second-round pick out of Justin Fields.
It's funny. I pulled up the draft chart, and I would, if you are going to move Fields, the team that's sitting there, I'm going to throw this out there because both of you guys said second round, right? Mm-hmm. Pick number 54. Does that sound like a fair trade for Justin Fields? The 54th pick in the draft.
Maybe.
I think so. Like I said, it depends what. I think he's going to be second round pick. I don't think if he got traded, like his value would be like a third or fourth. But I think 54 is realistic.
Okay.
And again, it depends how the first round shapes up. If one of these teams falls and they're like, well, we have this position need we want, and we know that the Bears just drafted, say, Caleb Williams. They know, they're like, hey, why don't we just wait? Because none of these other teams need a quarterback now that is ahead of us. We'll wait till the third round to go get Fields. All we have to give up is a third rounder. So I think the first round is really depending how it goes. I think it comes really down to Bears. I think it comes down to the Bears. I think it comes down to the Bucks. I think another team is the Cardinals. I think those are teams because the Cardinals, what are they going to do? Are they going to move on from Kyler Murray? Is he a Viking? Do the Vikings want to go veteran? Do they really want to reset with a guy like Justin Jefferson and go get a guy like Bo Nix? I think those are the teams, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and then you have the Vikings. I think really it comes down to, you have Chicago and you have the Vikings. Do they want to just go with a rookie, or do they want to go with someone who's been around a little bit?
All right, hey, Keas, pick number 54. That's fair value, right?
It has to be fair value to the right team because did the Bears pick up Fields' 5th-year option?
I don't think they have. I don't believe they have, but the reason why I was bringing this up, by the way, you brought up Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay picks 52. I would love to see this happen as a fan, but the team that picks 54, and I think it works, would be the Minnesota Vikings. And that's why I said that, because I would love to see Justin Fields get traded to the Vikings. It would just be an interesting storyline. And to be honest, I think 54 is not bad value. And you get an offensive-minded coach like Kevin O'Connell, who I think could do something with Fields. At least he can do something more with Fields than what Chicago had. But is Chicago and Minnesota going to trade? I want to say no, but Minnesota's traded with both Green Bay and Detroit in this draft in the last 2 years. So I would love to see this happen. I just threw that out there. Tampa Bay also picks at 52, and that makes a lot of sense as well. Perry asked a great question. Does A-Rod come back to the Jets next year? He's under contract, so I believe he will. The Browns need a coach that can get the most out of Watson. Now, Keas has the Browns making the playoffs, so I don't want to speak for Keas, but I believe since he hasn't gone to the playoffs, they don't move on from Stefanski. Jaden, is there a chance that the Browns move on from Stefanski?
I think this is pretty much his first full season, right? And it'll be hard for the Browns to look at it and say, well, we had a guy who still had a winning record with our team when he was on here, especially for the Browns. I think this upcoming season, if he doesn't have a season where he can get remotely back to where he was, being even just a top 10 guy for the Browns, because that's all he's got to be on this Browns roster. Getting a guy like Chubb back, and they'll probably go after another receiver too in free agency, is just getting back to similar to what he was. I think if he can't do that, then they will go get they will move on from him. But I think they will go get insurance for sure. I think, whoever that may be, if it's, Mac Jones or, Minshew or whoever it may be, if they need insurance to be like, hey, if he's not the guy, we're winning with Joe Flacco right now. We have no problem benching Deshaun Watson, but I think they'll still give Deshaun Watson one more year.
Well, I think Perry, I don't think that they're going to move on from Stefanski. I mean, 4 quarterbacks and you're still a playoff team. He's going to be there. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Watson, who his final game against the Ravens was a great game. I mean, so yeah. Gooch, don't sleep on the Browns. They're designed like the Ravens, good defense, and all he has to be is competent. But they moved him back to the practice squad so he can sign. Which player did they move to the practice squad? Which player are you talking about here? I'm not sure who you're talking about. I think Kansas City needs to invest in a wide receiver in the draft and our free agency this year. I've been saying the same thing. I'll start with Keas here. Keas, what's going to happen with the wide receiver position? Are we going draft, free agency, both?
Yeah, and to answer Gooch, I'm assuming Gooch is talking about Joe Flacco. Is that right? That they moved him back to the practice squad.
Flacco's been named a starter.
Oh, so I don't
know
who you're talking about, Gooch.
Joe Flacco. He did get, for some reason, I don't know if they changed it today, but the start of the week, he got moved to the practice squad.
Okay. Because I thought I saw something where he was been named a starter for the rest of the season. So
he could still be, like I said, as of yesterday, he was still in the practice squad. They moved him to the practice squad. I don't know why.
Okay, that's a weird development. Is that who you're talking about, Gooch? If you don't mind here, and I'll try to get caught up here with the comments here.
Again, it could be a roster move where they're trying to get it, like pay him or move a guy. I don't know. Sometimes teams they'll like they did with Dobbs. They get the guy, they put him on the practice squad for a couple hours, and then they bring him up.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's go here. Kansas City, what kind of investment or let's throw this out there. No investment, free agency, draft, both, Keas. What's Kansas City going to do? Or your response to Perry's question?
Yeah, I depending on how the money shakes out, right? Because that's going to be a big question. Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed and a whole host of other guys are set to be free agents. So, the money part is going to be a big aspect. But the short answer is, all we've ever seen from Brett Veach is when there is a blatant problem, like after Super Bowl 55 with the offensive line, where we had a whole backup offensive line starting, is he attacks known weaknesses with volume. So I'm expecting multiple draft picks on wide receiver. If the money is there, if there's a deal to be made, T. Higgins is going to be a free agent. Mike Evans is going to be a free agent. There's some lesser guys after that. I could see Mike Evans more so personally in Kansas City, but I think they're definitely at least going to attack in the draft with volume. They might have to make some other moves because I think we only have 6 picks this year, but that's still what I would expect. And if Wanya Morris that we've seen the last week and a half is the real deal, that could very well save them from having to even address the offensive tackle spot, where we would expect that left tackle would be their first pick. So I'm going to say attack with volume.
All right. Jaden, man, your answer to Perry's statement here, I think Kansas City needs to invest in a wide receiver in the draft and or free agency this year.
Absolutely. So I talked about this a lot on my podcast. Is if I'm being honest with you, like he said, Brett Veach, last time we had a problem, is he gutted it. 5 new offensive linemen gutted it, and he said, "All right, we're going." I think honestly, at the end of the season, I think Rice needs to be the only guy left standing in that wide receiver room. I really do. I think Rice needs to be the only guy left. And, Sky Moore, you can say, wow, you get rid of a guy you picked in the second round. I mean, you don't want to waste any more time with a guy like Patrick Mahomes. I think there's going to be some tough decisions to be made this offseason. I think a guy like Chris Jones, who, again, has been one of my favorite Chiefs of all time, I think you may have to move on from him. The way George Karlaftis has played this year, I think he may have 10 sacks, because I know he got a sack on Sunday. So he's a 10-sack guy. The way this defense has been playing, I think you do bring back Snead. I think the way Snead's been playing, the way the secondary's been playing, you got to bring a guy like Snead back. But Chris Jones may have to go. I think they need to bring in a veteran. I think they do need to bring it. They need to draft a receiver. Then you need to go get a big name. And I know that you're like, okay, that is dollar bills right there. Everything you just said comes with dollar bills. If you can go get a guy, another veteran guy, even if you bring a guy like Juju Smith back, you have that insurance veteran, you have your young receiver Richie Rice, and then you go get your Michael Pittman, who's a free agent, or T. Higgins, or whoever. You pay them. I like the Mike Evans one, but the only problem is Brett Veach, as soon as he's kind of like that guy in the dating scene. As soon as he sees 30, he kind of backs up a little bit. He doesn't kind of want to see that. That's how Brett Veach is. Brett Veach doesn't really like to sign guys above the age of 30. I would personally like Mike Evans. He's a little bit cheaper. But I think if the Bengals say, hey, you know what, we're a cheap franchise, we're going to let you walk, I think T. Higgins may be cheaper because he has not played a lot this season. He has not done a lot this season. So I don't think he's going to go somewhere and get the max. And he's been a number 2 his whole career. So I would love to see a guy like T. Higgins. Well, like I said, go get a vet. You have Richie Rice, draft another young receiver, and then you go get your big guy. You go get your guy. And like I said, that also comes with tough decisions where you may be lacking in another place, or you may be lacking at having a Hall of Fame a guy in your defensive line. But again, that's why you draft Felix Uzama, who I forgot existed. That's why you have to hit on some of these defensive guys where you drafted, where you're like, these guys got to produce. I honestly, again, then that's when you go get some of these other cheaper defensive linemen free agency who I like this year, like a Charles Omenihu type guys to bring in, and you have to kind of let George Karlaftis be your guy. And those are the tough decisions you make.
Yeah, I look at what Green Bay did in the draft. They drafted 3 wide receivers and 2 tight ends, and one of their tight ends got hurt early, and Tyler Kroft, now he's playing a lot, and he's playing really well. The other tight end was playing really well at the beginning of the year. He's on IR, but there's a chance he may come back for the playoffs. Jalen Reed, if OnePride was here, he's a Michigan State guy. He's been really playing well. A 5th-round rookie out of Virginia. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's also had a few catches on Monday night. I can see something like that. But, yeah, the Chiefs need to do something. One thing about football is that, and a lot of people argue with this, Seattle is one of the rare teams. Seattle's the only one that I will say that Pete Carroll really doesn't care. You can be an undrafted rookie free agent, or you could be a first-round draft pick, and he'll get both players the same amount of space. Like, whoever's better will win. I don't think that's true at the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think CEH would have been the starter early on. Keas and Gooch, they were telling me about, hey, Pacheco's going to end up being the starter. I'm like, no. And I think if Pacheco was a 3rd-round pick and CEH was a 4th-round pick, Pacheco was started day 1. I think if Sky Moore wasn't a 2nd-round pick, I think if he was a 6th-round pick or something, I don't think he'd be on the team. I really don't think he would be on the team. I was a guy who bought into all the hype. I thought he was going to be really good. I think Mahomes looked at him once last week. And this is a guy I'm thinking if he was a 6th or 7th round draft pick, may not even be on the team. It'll be interesting to see what Justin Ross does. He's been gone for the last 6 weeks. By the way, Von Miller played. I'm just going to throw that out there. Von Miller turned himself into police, but he got to play. Justin Ross wasn't even arrested and on the exempt list for 6 weeks. But my rant's over.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Yeah, I was not happy. Okay,
That's just.
He plays against Kansas City, but he got arrested. But that's okay. That's
well, and exactly. I don't know. I didn't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Quinn going to the Chargers, keep the kid at OC and build the town around. I'll be honest with you. So what he's talking about is you said Quinn. Okay, you're talking Dan Quinn. You know what? I saw. I don't know why, but I was thinking Ben Johnson because offensive guy. That actually makes a lot of sense, man. At the end of the day, Andy Reid is ultimately responsible. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And for all of EB's accountability, offense look undisciplined, out of sync. I've heard some people outside of Kansas City say, look at the loss of Eric Bieniemy. Look what Washington's done the last couple of weeks. All right. I mean, yeah. I have not seen this Belichick to LA. I've heard Belichick to Washington many times. I have not seen this yet. But the way it'll be. I want to see one last year for Belichick in New England. I want to see what he does with this, which looks like to be the number 2 pick in the draft. It'll be a lot of it'll be funny. Can Murray be traded without a big cap? No, he cannot, and that's why he's going to stay in Arizona. In division trade for Fields. Well, I picked 54 because they agreed that a 2nd round pick, and I can't believe I forgot his name. I am so embarrassed about this. It was pick number 51 or 50. Philly quarterback, Tush. Yeah, Hurts, and that was the same pick. I can't believe baby. I can't believe I forgot that. So and that's kind of why. And Minnesota, I think, would be the perfect spot. But yeah, you're right, Denver.
Well, I mean, the thing is like if you're expecting a 1 for him, then you're valuing him to the point that you're keeping him. You're not trading him. Like, if you think he's worth a 1st rounder, you're not trading him. You're keeping him as your quarterback.
Yeah, that's kind of it's going to be fun because Chicago can do so many different things, but now that they're winning games, they kind of put themselves in a weird position. It's kind of hard to, and it has been done. I mean, coaches have been winning games at the end of the year and they move on. And I've said this many times. I think Harbaugh is going to be the next guy in Chicago, and I think it's going to happen soon.
Yeah, I've said that. I think that's true.
Yeah.
A lot of people have said LA. But I think he may go back to Chicago. He played for Chicago.
Yeah, he did.
I think that would be perfect if they got the rookie quarterback too.
To me, it makes sense, and I could see Harbaugh going there, and I could see Harbaugh saying, "You know what? This is a guy that beat me at Michigan. I can work with this guy," and I could also see Harbaugh saying, "I'm going to take this Harrison kid and have an Ohio State quarterback wide receiver combo," which would crack me up here. Perry says KMC needs to find somebody that's got reliable hands and can build chemistry with Mahomes. You're preaching to a choir, brother. You are preaching to a choir. My biggest thing is, yeah, exactly. That these are some great names here. Speaking of Felix, do you think he can develop? Who's Felix?
FAU.
FAU.
TK Uzama.
He can develop. I did not.
I forgot he existed. I saw him and I was like,
he played a couple snaps last week. I did not like that draft pick at all, Perry. Mm-hmm. He's a developmental type of guy. You've heard me say this. He'll need to put on the NFL 20, but I didn't like the pick. We'll see what he does next year. But yeah. Sky Moore needs some more time. Some guys, you're right, Perry. It's just that there was so much hype on Chiefs social media, and I bought into it. I thought he was going to be 1,000-yard receiver, and I think he has like 200 yards. I'm being facetious, probably has more than 200. But Gooch says, as of yesterday, guys, Michigan and Harbaugh working on an extension. By the way, Gooch, just so you know, this has been news every year for the last 4 years, Michigan and Harbaugh contract. I think Harbaugh's going to win. And if Harbaugh wins the national championship, I think he's going to just say, hey, look, I won. I'm done. I'm going to go for a Super Bowl. That's just my opinion. So we kind of, I want to talk a little bit about playoff teams here, just a little bit. It's 244. I was being facetious. I was joking around about 240. Oh my God, that sucks. Playoff teams. I just want to circle one. Jacksonville at 9. This is a team that's been losing, and now keep in mind both Houston and Indianapolis lost, but both teams are just one game behind Jacksonville. This is a team I thought they would definitely win the division. Keas knows this, Jaden. I picked Trevor Lawrence to be my MVP, so you can laugh at me if you want, but that was my preseason MVP pick. Keas, how solid is this that Jacksonville's going to win the division?
You know, I still think that, and you know, last week we talked about Trevor Lawrence, and I would have set him for this last game because I thought they were going to lose no matter what. But I still think that they are going to win the division. The rest of the teams, you know, they're up and down. Like they show some flashes that, you know, gets you thinking there's a possibility. But at the same time, I guess you could say that for Jacksonville, but they've still played, I think, at a higher level. Still believer in Doug Peterson. I didn't believe in your Trevor Lawrence MVP hype.
No, you did not.
But I did think that he would have a better season than he's had. You know, I've been very disappointed with the season he's had thus far, but I still think that there's enough there, and you got Doug as your head coach to where I think they're gonna clinch the division.
All right. That was just solid. Like he's just boom, bet your life savings on Jacksonville winning the division here. Jaden, are you going to double down on what Keas said, the bet your life savings on Jacksonville winning the AFC South?
Yeah, I think they win the AFC South. I think the Texans gave them a good scare, but I still think the Jags get it done. I know Trevor Lawrence is a little banged up, but I think the Jags get it done. I like what they're doing over there in Houston, but I think the Jags, I think they'll get it done.
All right, I think we all three agree here. We both pretty much all have Jacksonville winning. I was just curious how dead set you were set on that. I think if Houston won against the Jets and Nico Collins and CJ Stroud didn't go down with injuries and they beat the Jets, we're having a different conversation. But some things happened. I'm kind of like, hey, Jacksonville sold there. Super Bowl contenders. Now, Jaden, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I did a preseason show. And I correctly predicted the Cowboys to be the NFC team in the Super Bowl, and Keas incorrectly picked the Lions. So Keas has the Lions as a Super Bowl contender. Let's look at these NFC teams here. We're looking at Dallas. We're looking at Detroit. We're looking at Philly here. These three teams Keas has as Super Bowl contenders. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think, this list overall is pretty spot on. I think, you got to. Right now, you have to put 49ers and Ravens on their own, and then Cowboys, Chiefs, Lions, Eagles, all in that category. But I always, even during the season, before the season, again, I would have my predictions of, teams making it. I had the Cowboys being the 5th seed, but I also said the Cowboys are a team that could be in the NFC Championship game. A lot of people were like, Jaden, no way. There's not a chance. I said, okay, so you have a rematch of the NFC Championship game. And they go, well, no, I think it'll be at least one new team. I said, okay, then who's that other team? And then people pause and they go, and I go, exactly. I said, the other team I think outside of the Eagles or the Niners that can make it is the Cowboys. I said, I get that. And I'm a Lakers fan, right? So I love my Lakers. And I always say the Lakers and Cowboys are similar. It's like we claim most people claim, I hate the Cowboys because they're a fan. And then I always ask the question, why? Well, they say they're going to win it every year. I say the Chiefs are going to win it every year. And they're like, yeah, but they always say it. I'm like, well, so do all the Bucs fans I know. So do all the Dolphins fans I know. It doesn't matter. Every fan base says they're going to win it every year. And I said, if the Cowboys can ever just have Dak Prescott go out there and can just beat the big boys. And I say, a lot of the times in the past, the Cowboys have been bullies, right? They've been the schoolyard guy. He comes there and he beats up on the Washington Redskins and he beats up on, the Green Bay Packers or some of these lesser teams. And then all of a sudden the 49ers come around the corner and they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to be the schoolyard bully today. So that's my only thing about the Cowboys. Like, can they stop being a bully and be like an actual badass? Can they be John Wick? Can they be like, okay, 49ers, I'll go in your place and I will beat you? And I honestly think they can do it. And I think the Cowboys can be a team that, the Eagles right now, they're a good team, but they're just not as dominant as they were last year. They're a team that can get to the Super Bowl. And I think you could end up looking up and seeing a Cowboys-Chiefs Super Bowl.
All right, so you're buying the Cowboys.
I am a little bit.
What about the Eagles?
Like I said, I like the Eagles. I like every player on the Eagles until I see Nick Sirianni's face. Then all bets are off. I even like Dom, the security guard. But as soon as I see Nick Sirianni's face, I'm glad that he was the first person that Andy Reid brought in his office and fired in 2013. That just pleases me every time I hear that story. So, like I said, I like the Eagles. They don't have. I think Brian Johnson is their OC. Yeah, they moved on.
Flasher's not happy with him. He's a Eagles fan. He's complained about him multiple
times. They don't have that. When I watch this Chiefs game, I don't want to take up all the airtime here, but when I watched the Chiefs versus Eagles game, they ran 4 screens in a row, and I kept going to my dad. I said, "Thank God." Thank you. Like, keep doing this. Like, you're making this easier for us. Like, you're just, and I get the Chiefs defensive line was just on Hurts, but like, it was almost just like they were like, let's just play safe. Like, let's just, like the Chiefs, let's just play safe and just hope our defense comes up with the play. And I was like, thank you. Like, this is awesome. Like, you just keep giving us more opportunities. The way our offense is playing, like, hopefully we turn around. And I think that's what it is for the Eagles. It's just, they don't go at people anymore this season. I'm just looking at the Eagles, and I have some friends that are from Philly, and there's Eagles fans like, bro, it's just different. We just don't have that we're gonna go in here and we're just gonna dominate. Like, they just don't have that this season. So that's my only thing is I think the Cowboys have the Cowboys got him. The Cowboys, they almost got him the first time. They got him this second time. And when you kind of pick up that swagger in December, and we've seen how with Chiefs teams, they pick up that swagger in December. And that carries over to the playoffs. And that's just the biggest thing is, can Dak not be the team where he goes beat Washington, but he can look 49ers in the face and be like, I'm about to dice you up. So, I like the Eagles. I think they can obviously get to an NFC Championship game. But I think if they go see one of the 49ers or Cowboys, I'm going to pick the latter.
All right. That was a great comment here. And Keas, I want to read some of these comments first here. I don't point talking is hard here. I don't see the point of Harbaugh staying at UM. He'll miss some games. And Keas nailed this. Contract extension talks are always more about maximizing money. And what you do is you leak this information to the press. And you know why you do it? Drive up those offers. And that was exactly what he was doing. Now, Keas, I want to talk about Super Bowl contenders. I noticed Jaden wisely left out the Lions. And but you still haven't been there. The Lions are a better team than the Eagles. I know they're your preseason pick, but I know you got 3, 5, and 6. All 3 of these teams are still Super Bowl contenders in your eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll notice that I think I had the Lions 4th,
5th.
Last week.
5th.
Last week. I'm talking about last week.
I think you had them 4th.
Yeah, I had them 3rd or 4th. So, I moved them down a little bit, right? But I want to give myself credit here because I probably don't enough, Dan. There were weeks where you questioned me having the 49ers number 1. then there were all these weeks that I got questions about having the Cowboys ahead of the Eagles and dropping the Eagles. I had the Eagles as number 1 before they played Kansas City, and then I dropped them down to 5 or 6. And people kept questioning me, why did you do that? And it's like, because I thought the Eagles were going to be, a lot better than they were. I was so unimpressed with them, just like I was so unimpressed with the Dolphins, that I moved them down, and they haven't moved, really moved up much at all, really, so to me, I still think the Lions are going to be fine. We've already talked before, about divisional opponents are tough, are tougher no matter what, because you have that whole familiarity aspect there. I still believe in Ben Johnson. I still believe in Dan Campbell. Would I put Dan Campbell and Goff, on my head coach quarterback combo, somewhere in the top 10, probably not the top 5, but probably closer to the top 5 than the top 10 at this point. I still see them as being able to more, and this is why the Dolphins are completely off there, right? They were number 7 on that tier last week. They're off of that tier now. But I still think that they are a team that you can trust almost as much as the other teams on there. For me, just as much, if not more so than Philly. They still have the talent. I still love what the Lions offense can do. To me, they're still a contender unless they lose more than another game the rest of the season. Then I'll move them down.
Well, I think that was a great answer. And Perry points out the Lions need to be in tier 3 now. They lost to the Bears, was bad, and our defense was suspect at best. AG, our defensive coordinator, is trash. And Perry, man, just listen to what Keas is telling you and keep the faith, man. I mean, keep the faith here. There's a lot of talent. Division games are tough. Look, you have a 3-game lead on both the Packers you have a 3-game lead on Packers, you have a 2-game lead with 4 games left against the Vikings. All you got to do is split that series. You're going to be fine. Perry says the Cowboys have a big fan base, but that's why there's so many bad fans. The Cowboys. I'm not a fan of Cowboys fan. Yeah, I'm not, but I still want them here. Nick, AK. Chiefs are 1 game above the Broncos. Yes, they are. Chiefs superfan, welcome, brother. And I think next year, both Chiefs Broncos games are going to be on prime time, and it's going to be a fun rivalry. Didn't the Cowboys beat Philly bad? Yes, they did. They split the series. And Keas.
It shouldn't have been a split, though, right?
No,
it really should have been 2 Cowboys wins.
Oh, this is a great question. Do you see Dan Quinn getting another head coaching position? If he does, do you see him having better success this time around? Keas, I'll start with you. Dan Quinn getting a head coaching job, a defensive guy who's been a head coach before, which would buck the trend.
Yeah, I mean, if the Cowboys have a dominant playoff run, then, he's going to be a hot name. Chiefs fans can go all the way back to when Todd Haley was a hot name when, what was it, Cardinals and Steelers in the Super Bowl, and what happens there, right? The coordinators for Super Bowl teams or teams that just, have dominating units end up hot names for coaching positions. So I think it's harder, though, for me to see defensive guys, because it's like you still have to bring in the right offensive coordinator, right? And that's really hard to do, because if you do it, that guy's usually gone in the year or 2 anyway, which is why it just seems like it's easier to bring in offensive guys, and bring in a defensive coordinator. But I still think if they go on a run, I think he'll have a pretty good chance of getting a head coach offer.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Jaden, man, what do you think here? Because the trend is the higher guys that are offensive-minded coaches that don't have experience. So you get Dan Quinn, a veteran head coach, as a defensive coordinator. Will he get another shot? And will he have better success? Now, keep in mind, he did lose in the Super Bowl with a 28-3 lead, but he did take a team that's never been to a Super Bowl before to a Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, so that's one of the first things I want to address is like better success. Dan Campbell went to a Super Bowl, so I don't think it's I don't know, like he could go to a team and make the playoffs every single year and be with the team for 8 years and they go deep in the playoffs every single year but never gets a Super Bowl. It's like, did he have just as much success or did he have least success? Like he was running the ball, like telling Kyle Shanahan to run the ball a couple more times away from winning the Super Bowl. That's literally what it was. So I thought Dan Campbell was at Atlanta. I know, obviously, what lost him that game, to be honest with you, in the Super Bowl was even more so Kyle Shanahan just kept passing the ball. But Dan Campbell, I mean, there's a lot of teams out there, like I said, but you nailed on the head is most people like to go with the sexy look, a younger head coach, offensive driven. Typically, defensive head coaches don't get hired unless, of course, you're like the Chicago Bears, like we said, where you're just, we need defense. We want to go defense. That's what we're historically known for is defense. But yeah, there's some teams out there I could definitely see him, going to go coach. Honestly, I would much rather see him, and this one may be, kind of a curveball. I think the Bills would be better off going to go get a guy like Dan Campbell. I don't think Sean McDermott, and I know Sean McDermott's an Andy Reid guy, but I think Dan would do a lot better job in Buffalo than he did than what McDermott's doing in Buffalo right now. I think he's holding back the Bills just a little bit.
Yeah, I by the way, Perry, to answer your question, I do think he gets another head coaching job. The only way he did a great job there in Atlanta, he really did. It's just that he didn't win a Super Bowl, and it's a good question. Would you consider greater success going to the playoffs 5 straight years and never making a Super Bowl, or going to a Super Bowl once and you miss the playoffs the next couple of years? That's kind of there's no real answer to that. OnePride put down that he thought that I'm going to have a special Black Monday show. OnePride said he thought it would be 8 head coaching positions would be available. Keas puts a great comment here. I'd put Amaruno and Wilkes ahead of Quinn in the defensive head coaching hire. I would put me and you've talked about this so many times. He's Amaruno, the Bengals defensive coordinator, doing a world-class job. So Wilkes deserved to get the job in Carolina, and it wouldn't surprise me if Carolina reaches out to Wilkes and says, "Hey, look, we messed up. We should." Yeah, look, Jaden, you're there. You're right there. I mean, you're. Let me ask you this: you say to a bunch of Panthers fans here, I thought Wilkes did a good enough job to earn it. I mean, should he have stayed? I mean, I liked the Reich hire at first, but I mean,
yeah. I mean, so. I know he didn't get a chance with the Cardinals. I know he got a chance with the Cardinals a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he got a chance with the Cardinals. That was a disaster.
It was a disaster.
That was a complete disaster.
And I know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you that it was just a complete disaster. They were 2-14. They brought in
Rosen.
They drafted Rosen. They brought in Sam Bradford. They fired him because they were going to draft Kyler Murray and the Texas Tech guy,
Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, the guy who had Patrick Mahomes and could only win 5 games in the Big 12.
Right. I think so. Like you said, Carolina right now they need a leader. They need stability, and I think that when you saw him tell Robbie Anderson or Chosen Anderson, hey, go hit the showers, man. Like, that's the type of leadership you need when you have a team where, again, right now, like I said, they're in the desert. The Panthers are in the desert right now. I know a lot of people, we want Hardball, go get Hardball. That's, again, it's sexier. It's a sexier pick. It's John Harbaugh. They're saying John Harbaugh. I've seen some people say Dan Quinn, obviously, because they do have some defensive guys over there. But, I think I do think, like I said, because I think they end up winning some games in the season, a little bit in the season last year when he was there. So, yeah, I think he did deserve a shot there in Carolina. I know he's with the Niners now, if I'm not mistaken. He's with the Niners. So, yeah, he's coming from the Niners. Who knows? He could bring some of those guys on the Niners over there in free agency. But, yeah, I would like to see him get another shot.
This is a great question by Keas. Keas, I want to hear you answer your own question. This is amazing. Yeah. Could the NFC South see 4 new head coaches next season?
I'm going to go with yes.
That would be so awesome. I think Bowles is gone. Mm-hmm. Even if they go to playoffs, I think that they could move on from Bowles. I really do. I think Arthur Smith is gone unless they win the division or make the playoffs. There is a possibility they could go 8-9, not win the division, make the playoffs, but an asteroid has to hit Montana at a certain time and all sorts of weird things. The Saints is interesting though, and the Saints is the only one. But Jaden, man, what do you think here? Could we see 4 new head coaches?
Yeah, so you have Dennis Allen, you have Arthur Smith, you have I think Todd Bowles is absolutely gone. Obviously, the Panthers will have a new head coach, I'm assuming. There is a possibility. Again, if you want to talk about Dan Quinn going anywhere, it could be the Saints. We've seen that they kind of want to go because they do have a lot of just great defensive players over there. They really just do need the quarterback to perform there because they have the running back, they have some receivers. Derek Carr is just not performing. So you could see a guy like him go there. Tampa Bay, I think Todd's got to go. I've never seen a coach who looks like he just doesn't care as much as he does on the sideline and just kind of just blink. In Atlanta too, I'm not one of my good friends. He's a Falcons fan. He's kind of too. I think there's a lot of wasted talent. You could have a lot of wasted talent on the Falcons. I think they're a QB away from being a really good team. You got Pitts. You got Bijan, you got London, you got that defense over there. So I think they do need to go get another head coach that, again, just kind of changes some things up. And I think they would want to go offensive driven over there, though. So I absolutely think there could be 4 new head coaches.
I think 2's definite.
Mm-hmm.
And then Arthur Smith is a guy that he's got to win the division. Keas has him winning the division. I think he wins the division, then he gets another chance. And then it's kind of funny because Atlanta's a team I think that could benefit most by not winning the division because I think they got everything except for the quarterback. So if they win the division, then they have to trade an arm and a leg, maybe Kyle Pitts or something to trade up. So we got a special guy in the chat. Aaron, what's up, guys? Aaron is the A. I almost said K. I'm sorry about that, man. Is the A in the Bak Talk Brothers. He's joining the chat, man. That is awesome. Super Bowl favorites. Number 1, San Francisco. Number 2 is Baltimore. Jaden, did Keas get this right?
Absolutely. You have to. As much as I think the Chiefs can get back to Super Bowl because of the struggles of the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. And, this is something I just have talked about so much on my podcast is, and I mentioned it here earlier, is this would be the biggest letdown year to lose Super Bowl. I know 20 was pretty big because the Chiefs essentially went, they only lost 1 game with their starters versus the Raiders. Oh, they did. They lost 1 game with their starters in 2020 and ended up losing that Super Bowl because you got obviously you're like, damn, that was such a good team. It really only lost 1 game a whole year with their starters until the Super Bowl. But and I kind of reference it like this. I just was on a podcast with quarterback.
Hey, Jaden, I'm sorry. We're having some audio issues with you. We got the start of this comment, and then you kind of now it looks like you're frozen. Hey, listen, I'm gonna kick you out, and then I'm gonna put you just right back in and see if that works. Here, and I'm gonna put you up there, and there we got just like maybe the first couple words out of that. I'm sorry about that. All right, yeah. If you want, if there's a way, if you could just go back, okay. So it looks like now I'm getting the circle here. Are you? Can you hear me? Okay, Jaden. Okay, we got. Okay, yeah, you might. Okay, yeah, we're having some audio issues here, so I apologize for the technical difficulties here. Perry, I'm starring your comments because you have some great comments here. I'm not just ignoring that, but I'm gonna see here. I'm gonna remove Jaden, and then I think when he's ready, he'll go ahead and come back.
I think what happened, Dan, is that since he's in Florida and all these butthurt Dolphins fans are somehow tuned into tonight's show, that one of them, works for Jaden's internet provider and is messing with his feed.
Keas, by the way, Perry, in the description is a link to both TPT Podcast and the Bak Talk Brothers. So make sure you check it out. I know I don't want to speak for Keas, but I know he has a show Wednesday. I always try to tune into it. So yeah, check it out. It's really awesome.
It gets off topic though. Last Wednesday, we spent our last hour talking about food.
Jaden, yeah, we can hear you, man. I apologize. We started the rant, and then we got just like the first couple words. You were telling Keas how wrong he is to have San Francisco and Baltimore.
No, I mean, I hope he's wrong, but in all seriousness, I mean, these absolutely should be the two favorites. And what I was getting to is, I've mentioned on my podcast before, and I just was able to do a podcast with former Chiefs quarterback Taylor Thigpen, is we talked about how, like it would almost feel like in the 90s, right, when you had Michael Jordan, you get to the playoffs, and it's almost like if you had to, Michael Jordan's not in the playoffs, or he gets bumped out of the playoffs, and he doesn't make the playoffs. You're thinking, you're in the East, you're like, oh, well, shoot, we don't want to go play MJ. That's great. I'm not comparing Josh Allen over MJ. I'm saying you don't have to go the upper elite quarterbacks. Say you don't have Josh Allen make it, or you obviously Joe Burrow make it. That's what I was saying is it would be a game. And I mentioned 2020 as a reference. 2020, Chiefs essentially lost one game with right? The last game of the season, and so their starters, those that had but really, that I think this would be the biggest letdown because of how much weaker the AFC is for the Kansas City Chiefs. You really beat Jacksonville, you beat Miami, and the other team, obviously, you essentially have to see that as the top dog would be the Baltimore Ravens. So I do agree with them. These have to be the two favorites right now. But do I think the Chiefs can get to the Super Bowl? Absolutely, because, like I said, you're probably going to have to go play Colts or Pittsburgh or Cleveland, and that's a game the Chiefs should win.
Well, it's so there was a little bit of audio quality. So basically, what we got was that you're telling Keas he's dead wrong about this, and he got the two wrong teams. No, I'm teasing. Yeah, I agree with you. By the way, I think I have it. I would have it the same way. I didn't have a chance to do power rankings, but I would do the same exact thing. I would have San Francisco's best team in football. All they got to do is stay healthy, but that's a huge if. That is a major if. And then Baltimore, I thought that when Andrews got hurt, but 37 points against the Rams, lots of weapons. Again, I want to see Lamar Jackson what he can do in the playoffs. So I think I would do it the same way. Keas, I think you nailed it. Your chart is. I think it's excellent, man. I mean, I want to nitpick at a few things, but I really can. I mean, One thing that we didn't really talk about, and I kind of want to wrap up a little bit. So, but I love the fact that you got the two teams at 12 and 13. I think you got that right. I think the Rams and Packers are going to get into the playoffs. Your sheet is amazing. You did an A+ job on this. It was a great sheet, and I love it, man. I can't thank you enough for this. I want to read some of these comments here that I want to touch base on them. Jaden, you're a college guy, and you mentioned you're a Sooner guy. So what is the thoughts of your quarterback transferring, and what do you think about Oklahoma competing in the SEC?
Yeah, so a couple things here, with Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel, love Dylan Gabriel. Like you guys know, I live in Orlando, so Dylan Gabriel coming from UCF. A lot of my former teammates played with him at UCF. So I was, I love that he came over, and I thought he did a great job for Oklahoma. I understand my question when you have a 5-star quarterback and a Jackson Arnold waiting in the wings, they're probably going to go with him next year going into the SEC. A lot of people, they looked at Texas and they look at Oklahoma. And, again, me being in the South is, you guys got to come play in the SEC. There you guys are screwed, this, that, and the other. That's only going to up your recruiting. It is. It's only going to up recruiting for Texas. It's only going to up recruiting for Oklahoma is all those kids, especially with the transfer portal and, the NIL deals,
And we lost him in midstream here. And I didn't know he was a UCF fan. UCF Jaguar, of course, was a big UCF fan. And, Keas, this is a great statement. It says, Keas says he killed me to put the Ravens back up there, especially because I thought the Rams should have won. I agree, by the way. And then I almost had it as the 49ers as Super Bowl. By the way, I would have loved that. If you said we had one team up there and then I almost put 49ers Cowboys, I actually would not have had a problem with that. Wouldn't it be funny? You know what? If you put that up there, though, it'd be kind of retro between 92 and 95, the two best teams for, the 49ers. That's awesome there. Is there a chance that you're going to do that next week?
You know what? I'm hoping, and I was getting ready to put this last comment in here that part of the reason I put Kansas City lower this week is in hopes that would wake them up moving forward the rest of the season. Like this game, we're either going to see the most focused Chiefs team we've seen in probably a couple years, because they've had 3 or 4 years, because they've had those focus issues, that have plagued them for years. And that was one of my concerns, was when the defense was legit good, that it was going to make the offense like even that much more complacent. So with Mahomes being as pissed off as he is, I believe we're either going to see the most focused week of practice in Andy Reid's Kansas City history, or we're going to learn something probably much more negative about just this year's team, which, by the way, one of the things, going back to what Jaden said, I get what he's saying, that the AFC right now is probably the most winnable, that it's been, being up for grabs the last few years. But I'm 100% that this was supposed to be a rebuilding year for the Chiefs with this offense. So if that's the case and the Chiefs still make the playoffs, if that's the case and the Chiefs still make the AFC Championship, and if they somehow squeak into the Super Bowl, there's a lot of AFC teams, especially those who are now onto the second contract for their quarterbacks, who have missed a huge opportunity to play in a Super Bowl. So yeah, I lowered them. I'm hoping that they actually wake up. I was afraid if I keep them at number 2 for a week, they might just continue their offensive slumber. So I'm hoping that moving them down, they will prove what I'm hoping to see out of them, if that makes any kind of weird fandom sense.
No, actually, it makes perfect sense. And, it's funny because, like, if you go with the playoffs, which is going to change completely next week, but right now, the way it works is that Miami would play Indianapolis in one playoff game, which is, there's history. It's been a while, but there is history between the Colts and Dolphins. I think that would be a fun game. Miami would probably win in Miami. I think that's fair. Jacksonville against Cleveland, and it's in Jacksonville. It's a coin flip, isn't it? I can see either team winning. But the one game that I'm looking at, Chiefs Steelers at Arrowhead, out of those three games, which one, if you're like any survivor pool or are you picking? And you're obviously picking Kansas City. It's not because we're Chiefs fans. It's just that, let's be honest, out of those three games, which team's most likely to win? It's Kansas City, right? And if you're the Ravens, which team would you most likely cheer for? It would be your arch rival Pittsburgh, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I want to touch base on some of Perry's comments here. These are great. Philly is the blueprint from long-term contender trading down. By the way, New England did this for years. They had players like Lawyer Malloy, Richard Seymour. They got rid of them, used draft capital. They traded Richard Seymour for 2 number ones. They kept on trading that down. They'd stockpile picks. They would draft wisely. Remember they made a hard decision. And at the time, I blasted them because they like, hey, look, you have an MVP quarterback in baby number 11. He's with the Rams now.
Stafford.
Not Stafford. The Philly quarterback who was with Washington and the Colts and the North Dakota State kid. Can't think of it. Can't believe I can't remember his name.
Oh.
The one Foles replaced.
Wentz.
Okay, thank you. They had Wentz, and then they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. And I was like, look, it's good value, 50th, I think it's 51 pick in the draft, but you got Wentz, so I don't get it. And you made the hard decision, and you moved on from Wentz. You gave him to the Colts. The Colts gave you a first round draft pick, and the Colts, this year's draft, they had the 4th overall pick. What'd they have to do? They had to draft a quarterback. Yeah, so it's been a blueprint. You got to use your picks. You trade down. You get your quarterback cheap, and yeah, exactly. You're 100% correct. Take a look at Kansas City too. Kansas City had a good quarterback in Alex Smith. They rolled the dice, got Patrick Mahomes, and then look at what the Chiefs have done. Don't be surprised if Kansas City Chiefs do something creative in this draft as well. But you're 100% correct. And Keas I deserve this. Really, that was bad. Do I think Philly will make the Super Bowl again? Absolutely, they could. Dallas is tough. The Lions are tough. San Francisco's better. Maybe not this year, but they're a team. They need to rebuild. Do they need to rebuild or retool? Keys, what do you think? Tampa Bay, do they just need to blow this up, or is this fixable here?
I want to say yes, because I like some of their pieces, but I think it depends on who they can get as their quarterback, or maybe they believe in Baker. I don't know. Who their quarterback will be, who their head coach will be, because the problem is, to me, to just say blow it up, is that division is, utterly winnable, right? We're talking about they could theoretically win this division this year. And so how can you talk about blowing it up? Because if you can improve your head coach and your quarterback, and you can win your division, that's making it to the playoffs, right? Keep saying it. All these cliches are cliches for a reason, but all you need, you just have to get to the dance. Get to the dance. Anything can happen. So why blow it up if you can improve those two things? Or, maybe you're sold on Baker. I think he's in that, league of Tannehill, Garoppolo and other guys I've already talked about before as game managers. He doesn't have the it factor to me at all. But he's still a solid guy. I really don't believe that those guys can win a Super Bowl in the 2023 NFL the way that defenses are playing now, but we'll see.
Yeah, and Perry, I think both of us agree Baker isn't the answer. It's going to be interesting because we all of us agree that Todd Bowles is going to move on. Who do you bring in? And then whoever you bring in, that's going to kind of determine things. I seriously, if you put a good quarterback on that same exact team, who knows? But just remember, you had Tom Brady last year and you won 8-9. So there's a lot of variable factors in there. The Saints are like 80 something million over the cap. Do you think Lamar can take the Ravens to the big game here? Keas, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about this before, and it's kind of, for me, it's kind of an incomplete because we don't know how much of Lamar's past failures had to do, specifically with his previous contract, and again, the stuff that Ed Reed said to him. We don't know how much is Greg Roman, getting into this. I got to prove that my quarterback is a thrower like Patrick Mahomes and every other, legit quarterback and not just a throwing running back. We got to see if either of those two things or both of them, are just myths, that Greg Roman was, the issue, or Lamar was kind of making some business decisions because he hadn't gotten paid yet. He's gotten paid and he's got a new offensive coordinator. So, and he has legit weapons. Odell's a legit weapon. Zay Flowers is a legit weapon. You've talked about Rashad, Bateman, although you've called him baby a few times. So maybe you guys are a couple now, but
first round pick out of Minnesota. I loved him. I can never get his name right.
So, to me, it's an incomplete. I don't know because I'm a show me guy and I haven't seen it yet. I find the arguments of Greg Roman and, business decisions to be legitimate. To me, the question is more of if Lamar doesn't show it this year, and it goes back to what Jaden was saying, right? This is the perfect year. The Chiefs, receiving core is a problem. It's a down year for the offense. Joe Burrow is injured. Justin Herbert is injured. Not that, anyone had to worry about the Chargers making the playoffs with Brandon Staley there. You have all these question marks in the AFC. This is legitimately Lamar's put up or shut up year. If they fail, I think it's legitimate to question them every year moving forward because I don't think they'll have a better season than this one.
You're 100% correct. I mean, Odell Beckham, he signed on a 1-year deal. I don't know everything on the Ravens, but I do know they got some names coming up. They've done a fantastic job in the draft too, getting some talent. I think you're the one who brought it up Friday, Perry, about Andrew Voorhees. The USC tackle could have been a first, second round draft pick towards, I believe his ACL during the pro day, and the Ravens picked him up in the 6th round. Probably going to start at right tackle. Good, one of the few things that they've done correctly. One of many things they've done correctly. But after this year, they have to make some tough decisions. You got a year with Bengals Bengals got Burrow out. The Browns got Watson out. Jacksonville looks vulnerable. Kansas City looks vulnerable. If you don't do it this year, you got to say, hey, look, maybe you can't get it done. Maybe you can't get it done. Perry says you got a 5-year window with a rookie quarterback until you need to pay him big money. That's why you have to play the rookie right away. I disagree. We sat Patrick Mahomes, and that worked out pretty well. I think that what the Colts are doing unintentionally with Anthony Richardson is the right move. 21-year-old kid with a world of talent. Every single football field he's been on until week 1 in the NFL, he's the best athlete. And what happened? He got knocked out of the game. Sitting on the sidelines, hopefully he's taking notes and learning. But I don't think that the smart move is always to start a quarterback right away. But I understand what you're saying. Keas, what are your thoughts here, man?
Yeah, I mean, you already brought up Mahomes, which is what I was going to say. So, clearly that doesn't have to be the only way. I think it's just important, though, that you have a good GM who can build a good roster and coaches that can coach up players, because, you have Mahomes sitting on the bench, but you're also going out and building a team, around him as well. But in this case, Alex Smith had pretty good value, so you're kind of building some equity there, when you trade him. So that's also important too. If you want to argue that, that the Chiefs had that advantage. So,
well, Perry, yeah, and you said the same thing here. I don't know if remember it was you or Hendon Hook, or I'm sorry, you or Funk that was saying, hey, look, we need to get Hendon Hooker in here because golf's always going to be pretty good, but that's not going to be good enough. And Keys nailed it, because the Chiefs did trading Alex Smith, and they got I can't remember the corner's name, but he was a key part of the Super Bowl win. Ironically, he went back to Washington in free agency.
Kendall Fuller.
Yeah, I really liked Kendall Fuller too. Perry says the Steelers could be a dark horse. Steelers will have nothing to lose if Kansas City plays Steelers. I get that, but I also remember Ben Roethlisberger's last game in the NFL was at Arrowhead, and the Steelers had nothing to lose, and they had all that emotion, and the Chiefs won 42-21. And even though it's a 21-point victory, it could have been 50. So the Steelers, I've been watching them the last couple of weeks. They have Buddy, great name, Dan, Steelers fan. He's just been beyond frustrated. Out of all the teams that are in the 3 wildcard teams currently, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, which one's the most vulnerable? I would say Pittsburgh. If you want to argue Colts, then you could. But do I fear the Steelers in the playoffs? No, I do not. And any given Sunday, I understand. But out of Miami, Indy, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Cleveland, we're a couple Chiefs fans. We're probably telling you the Chiefs are most likely to win, but I guarantee you the point spread will be highest on Kansas City, Pittsburgh. You talk to any sports bettor, they'll tell you the same thing. Am I wrong here, Keys, or the Steelers coming into Arrowhead in the playoffs? Kenny Pickett throws for 400 and a couple touchdowns. I mean, is that what's going to happen?
Well, that wouldn't happen anyway. If the Steelers had any pathway to win the game, it would be running the ball. I mean, first off, what you would see if you went pass happy in this game is you might see a fist fight with Pickens and his quarterback, his head coach, maybe the whole team, because if there's one thing that L'Jarius Sneed and Spagnuolo has been able to do this year, it is shut down teams' number 1 receiver. So, Pickens ain't taking that. But yeah, I think you would have to run the ball. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that especially as Chiefs fans, and, you always have to be cautious, because when it feels that way, crazy things happen. But I think if you ask Chiefs fans, that would be probably the one team that they would most like to play. Unfortunately, the Steelers aren't making the playoffs, so that's not even going to happen. Like right now, the AFC playoff picture has the Steelers at 6 and the Colts at 7, and I don't see either of those teams making the playoffs. So you know what? It's going to be interesting. We might be watching the Dolphins and Bengals play that first weekend of the playoffs. Some crazy things might happen. We might be watching Ravens Bengals The second week of the playoffs.
I'm a level with you. I'm looking at the other 7-6 teams: Houston, Denver, Cincinnati, and Buffalo. I can argue that I might fear all 4 of these teams more than Pittsburgh. Maybe. Do you think John Harbaugh moves on from the Ravens? Should some team trade for him? He's been with Baltimore for a very long time. He has a great. I can tell you this. I know a little bit about this. I actually have some family in Baltimore. Harbaugh and the Ravens. They're not. That's not going to happen. I'm just going to level with you. There has been. Remember, Gruden got traded to Tampa Bay for $7 million in first round. I think it was a first round draft pick. These things happen, but Harbaugh's not moving on from the Ravens. That's a really, really, really good situation. Mahomes is not the norm. You also have Andy Reid developed McNabb, who's kind of like Mahomes. You have to understand it's much more important that everything in your organization has to be on point for a rookie quarterback to succeed. It's not the rookie quarterback. It's the situation in which you have surrounding him. All right. Tommy DeVito, believe it or not, they put the pieces around him. The defense got better. They watch that game. They leaned on Saquon Barkley. The offensive line, Andrew Thomas, who's that team's best player. He by the way, he played those last 3 games. So, there's other things that are involved here. Keas, what's your thoughts here on Mahomes not the norm? You also had Andy Reid and Reid developing McNabbs, who's kind of like Mahomes.
I don't think they're alike at all, but yeah, Mahomes isn't the norm, and to an extent, both can be true. The problem is that it's still the better path, because if you look at the history of quarterbacks, especially first round quarterbacks who have started their first year, when they are not on a good team, David Carr, especially. You can throw a lot of guys out there. One of the big things is you start to develop bad habits based on the team around you. And once that happens, it's really hard, to break those. Or, like David Carr, I throw him out because he's a great example because of how many times he got sacked. You start to get gun shy, and it just mentally, it can ruin a quarterback. There are very few quarterbacks, in my opinion, that have the makeup to handle it. You have a Peyton Manning who can have a terrible rookie season, but you still have to have the tools and weapons around them at some point. Peyton Manning, ended up having, 2 Hall of Fame wide receivers and a Hall of Fame running back, a Hall of Fame head coach, probably a guy who should be a Hall of Fame offensive coordinator and offensive and quarterback coach, in Tom Moore and Jim Caldwell. Feel like I'm forgetting somebody else there.
They have a couple defensive players in the Hall of Fame as well.
But from an offensive perspective, though, I think that's where it's most important that you support that quarterback, so that they don't develop bad habits, so they don't end up with, some mental, weaknesses. And I know that that's not the proper phrase to convey what I want to say, but, you don't want them becoming gun shy. One of the things that tells me Derek Carr will never be the guy is because he's gun shy. And there's other quarterbacks out there. You don't want a quarterback to get sacked 50, 60, 70, plus times their rookie season. It's going to be a huge uphill climb for that quarterback moving forward.
And all you got to do, and by the way, Perry, we're going to pay attention to this. This is a great comment that Keas had. Let's look at Anthony Richardson and how he handles this. His first NFL game, he doesn't finish it. I think it was his second or third, doesn't finish it. Fourth or fifth, I don't know exactly, but I know first 5 games, the season's over. How is he going to handle year 2 when he got knocked out of 60% of the games he played in? It may even be 75. I think he got knocked out first, third, and fifth. but he didn't finish those games. How gun shy are you going to be? And again, I think that he should have sat. He should have learned. The Colts should have prepared him. But no, he was thrust into the spotlight. And what happened? He got hurt, and he's not going to play again this year, even if the Colts make the playoffs. So I'm going to try to get the rest of your questions because these are great questions. But one thing I do want to get to before Keas has the exit is Thursday night. I'm actually really looking forward to this game. It's funny. Denver Gator hit me up. He's like, man, we got a stinker for Thursday night. And I told him, it's like, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I mean, it's going to be a fun game. I promise it's going to be an entertaining game. It's Chargers, Raiders. It's in Vegas. Both teams are 5-8. So realistically, the tiebreaker is that I have to have sex with 4 supermodels on top of a glacier for one of these teams to make the playoffs. That's a true story, Keas. So Thursday night, man, what are your thoughts? Do you have it? Is it a date night, or are you actually excited about the game like I am?
I'm not sure what Thursday night will be. I might check in from time to time, but I'm probably not watching this one. Right now, my inclination is like Raiders 24-21. I think it'll still be close. But I'm leaning towards the Raiders here.
Justin Herbert, it was confirmed he's going to be out for the rest of the year. Without Herbert, and you got the Raiders winning, does this guarantee Staley's gone?
It should. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking they lose this game, he should be gone. I think that's the smart move. If you're even contemplating Kellen Moore being his replacement, I think you have to give him that early start just to see.
Well, let me ask you this though: do you want to give Moore the start and have him deal with Easton Stick, or is that just not fair? Would it be different if he had a chance with Herbert, or since he's got Easton Stick, who's obviously not going to be the guy?
I mean, I think there's two ways to look at it. On the one hand, you could say, well, if things don't look good, we're not going to chalk that up against Moore. But then say on the other hand, if he has Easton Stick as his quarterback and they win a couple games or so the rest of the way out, maybe that tells you, maybe for you that's a cherry, on top, and it kind of confirms for you any confidence you have in Moore, which, the one thing I saw was Easton Sticks was able to do with Quentin Johnson what Justin Herbert hasn't been able to do all season.
And by the way, Keas has called and confirmed that Joe Burrow is a system quarterback, only a system quarterback. So maybe the same thing can be said about Herbert. That's it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really fun, entertaining game. I would be floored if either team does anything. But these two teams are going to be very entertaining during the offseason. I think both teams are going to be looking at head coaches. If the Raiders are smart, they'll stick with Antonio Pierce. Perry asked, do you think Kenny Pickett is the answer for the Steelers, or should they look for a better solution? What are your thoughts, Keas?
It's still too early. I haven't been a Pickett fan since the beginning. And, it comes back to it's different for me as a Chiefs fan, right? Because there can be guys who are very solid quarterbacks, even from like a top 5 to 10 quarterback, who to me doesn't have the it factor. So to me, he shouldn't be the guy, right? Because I think you have to have a guy, for me, who has an it factor. He doesn't have the it factor. That doesn't mean he can't be a very good above average quarterback. He just doesn't have the it factor to me. And to me, that's what you have to have in today's NFL to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see him with a decent offensive coordinator. I was kind of surprised at the beginning of the year there were some Steeler fans critical of Tomlin, and they said, look, we get it. He won a Super Bowl. He's never had a losing season, but I mean, this team had enough talent to win a couple Super Bowls, and we never got it done, which I thought at the time just floored me. But last 2 weeks they've lost to a pair of 2-win teams with, trying to lock up the playoffs. I'm kind of wondering. So Perry says the Chargers should let Staley finish off the year higher draft. You know what? You're saying that. I can see the Chargers doing that. I pulled up the draft. They're picking 10th right now. And I'm trying to look at this team, and I'm like, what would they do with the 10th overall pick? Is, what kind of an impact player, or could you trade down? So you never know. You may be right. I am 99% sure I know the answer to this one, Keas. If Kansas City loses in the first round, is that a bad season?
It depends on a few things, and one of them is if you believe this is a rebuilding, year for the offense. But I think probably overall, most Chiefs fans and even the team themselves would probably say, yes, it's kind of a lost year if that happens. You have the best defense of Mahomes' career. Harrison Butker's been lights out. Travis Kelce's 34 years old, and you're probably gonna lose at least a piece or two of the defense next year. So the team's gonna look a little different, and maybe it'll be more balanced. The defense might fall off a little bit, and the offense might come closer to the standard that we've seen over the last few years. So all in all, I'll say yes. I know for a lot of Chiefs fans, any year of Patrick Mahomes' career that doesn't at least get to the AFC Championship game is going to be looked at a wasted year.
100% agree. Chiefs lose a home playoff game. It's a waste. It really is. This is a good question. Can Peterson make the Jags a contender? Keas, I'd love to know what your opinion is.
Are we talking about Doug?
Yeah, he spelled it. I know he uses this phone, so I don't criticize the typos. I know how hard it can be. I get it, but yeah, Doug Peterson, can he make the Jags a contender? You have them winning the division. I agree. So Jaden, when he was here, it was unanimous, across the board that they're going to win that division. But I will say this: Trevor Lawrence does not look like an MVP.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to do some soul searching on some things next year. But I still think that Doug will make them a perennial contender. But it'll be interesting to see what happens next year, because we might have to revisit and reevaluate both head coach and quarterback in that combo.
I agree, and I think, don't get me wrong, Peterson's staying there. Trevor Lawrence is going to stay there. One thing that all of us kind of agree upon is that the head coach quarterback combo is really high, and Jacksonville is one of the better ones in Peterson and Lawrence. But the defense, which I was looking at the defense at the beginning of the year, I'm like, keep in mind, when they kept Kansas City at 17 points, I was, like, hey, that defense didn't play bad, but when you score 9 points, you're not going to win too many NFL games. But the defense just has been falling apart. And you have the former number 1 overall pick. You have Josh Allen. Devin Lloyd's a guy who's been playing really well. Former first-round draft pick. I'm going to butcher his name. Forsay Olaquan. Came over as a free agent from Atlanta, led the NFL in tackles last year, bunch of high draft picks in the secondary. Why the defense has been playing bad the last several weeks is a big concern, because I'm looking at that defense and I'm like, this is a talented unit. Maybe they need to make some coaching changes on the defensive side of the ball. They do have some offensive line issues that it's going to be a big deal, but the answer is yes. Do you feel Trevor Lawrence won't develop into a superstar quarterback, or will he be okay or just good? You know my answer, but Keas, what do you think about Trevor Lawrence?
Again, I think for me, it's an incomplete. I didn't think that he was going to be MVP caliber this year, but let me backstep. I didn't think he would be MVP this year, but I understood, there's MVP caliber, potential there. So I understood where you were coming from, Dan. I give you a hard time. I understood where you were coming from. I just didn't think it was going to happen. But he definitely had the pieces this year. So, I think that they're going to have to reevaluate, some stuff there, whether it's the offensive line or what exactly isn't working. So, I'm going to lean towards, it might be that he is not a superstar level. Like, that's not his ceiling. He might have a pretty decent floor, but his ceiling might be lower than what people thought.
Yeah, Perry, I think that there's going to be, I think that before his career is over, he'll win at least one MVP. He's going to be a good one. And they have some issues on the offensive line, but there's also a lot of youth on that offensive line. They used a first-round draft pick on Anton Harrison, really nice tackle out of Oklahoma. So I think he'll develop. They have some other high draft picks in that offensive line. Cam Robinson, they'll probably release. And Jacksonville's probably going to go offensive line again in this draft, maybe not in the first round. I'm going to have this be the final question. But before I answer this question, I have Keas answer it as well. Keas, before you answer, or whatever order you want to go in, I'll whatever you want to do here. I want to give you a chance for your final thoughts, comments, statements, anything, and then Perry wants to know what you think needs to be done for Trevor Lawrence to develop.
Yeah, I don't think I really need to give any final thoughts other than this whole exercise of the team tiers here. Part of it. We've looked at the schedule. Well, we saw pretty clearly the last couple of days why you just can't, chalk up a W or an L for one team or another, based on how you think they're going to play. So I keep saying any given Sunday. Well, also any given Monday night, so yeah, I'll just keep saying that because, as fans, we like to chalk up wins or losses, for other teams. And that's just, teams are a lot closer in the NFL today than we would like to admit. The way defenses play, most smart defenses are not going to give up the big play. They are going to make you have sustained 12, 15, play drives, and they're going to hope that, you kill yourself in that drive, whether by a turnover or a costly penalty, on the right down that, kills your drive. And, so far that's the way it's played out in most games. So listen, a 5-8 team and a 10-5 team, anything can happen between those teams. So.
Yeah, and Perry, just to answer your question, as far as I think what needs to be done for him to develop, I think Jacksonville's doing everything perfectly. They brought in talent at receiver. They brought in Evan Ingram. They gave a lot of money to Christian Kirk. Him being injured, there's a chance he could come back if Jacksonville advances in the playoffs. But I'm hearing he's going to be out about 6 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks is the injury report. That's a big loss, but you got, ETN's a very, very, really, really, he's a fun running back to watch. So you got talent. I think you got the right coach. You might have to make some decisions on the defensive side of the ball. But earlier in the year, that was the issue. Yeah, Grizzly, Jaden had some issues here. And so that's what's going on here. He had some internet issues. So I don't remember even seeing that. Yeah. So Aaron, that's the kind of thing. I just became monetized, so I'm kind of learning this stuff on the fly. This is all kind of new. Actually, I got this piece of paper right here. Google had to send me to verify my information, and this is all kind of a new thing. So I'm kind of learning this on the fly, making adjustments. So actually, I just made an adjustment for this live stream. So I apologize about that. Aaron, as a matter of fact, Keas has got my number. If you don't have it and you want to know some more details, just give me a call. I kind of don't want to go on this on the live stream. I've kept Keas on here for about 3 hours. So I want to thank Keas very much for coming on. I want to thank Jaden for coming on. He did a great, fantastic job while he was here. Keas, thank you so much for coming on, doing 3 hours with me. I can't thank you enough, man. Appreciate you coming in, and you were just phenomenal. This list is just, I don't know. I think Grizzly's just messing around because he's a Vikings fan. I'm assuming that's a joke comment. I'm assuming there was a lot of, I had to unfollow some Vikings fans who were furious about the Chiefs getting preferential calls. And all you got to do is just look at the last couple of weeks and you'll see that that's not true. My picks video is in the description. Keas also left out that he's going to be live tomorrow night, 7:30. Is that correct?
Yep. 7:30. We'll be live.
All right. So check out Keas.
Set your alarm, Aaron.
Yeah. And then Friday, Keaton Talk Sports is going to be back. He is a Patriots fan. He's also a huge Ohio State fan. He said Ohio State would beat every team in the SEC by at least 50 points. He'll be on Friday, so let him know what you think about that. Guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you back on Friday.